Welcome to the Condor DM show. I'm starting a little early tonight because I have company that arrived a little, well, we'll say a little early and at last minute. Like I didn't expect them to be visiting so soon. But here we are, so I'm in the mood to start early. Yeah, just warning you, right? I hope there's not too much background noise. I don't think you'll hear much at all, but just in case, right? I have company tonight, so company is going to be out doing whatever. Well, I do this stream with you guys, and we're going to be talking about Gamma World. So, welcome to the Condor DM show. I'm only going to have one of these. We're at the casual part of the show, right? I'm sorry for starting so early. I know some people will take a minute to get here because probably starting around 15 minutes early. I haven't even checked the time. So, I think it's around, it's with 15 to 20 minutes early. But I do that when it comes to specials and out of order stuff. So I warn people that on nights, every other night I do a stream outside of Sunday, I start just slightly early, right? Slightly early. Tonight's a little bit more early than slightly. Usually it's like 5 to 10 minutes beforehand, but really what I'm doing on most of those nights, especially if I got a big topic, is giving you guys time to roll in before I start the official stream. So I don't consider this the actual start of the stream. When I start covering Gamma World, the facts, that's when the stream starts. Gamma World. It's a unique product from TSR. And how can I say? It's definitely TSR spreading its wings to other genres, but in extreme ways. And even the designer of Gamma World had a completely different take on what we do than, say, Gary Gygax and some other people, right? But we'll get into that. We'll talk about James M. Ward. Yeah, you'll know a little bit more about him before the end of the night, I promise. I don't want to start right away. I just want to give people some time to roll in, so sit here and be boring for a few minutes. Usually not my style, right? I like to just go and then perform the entire time. Like, see, performing is part of what I do. So once the camera goes on, once all this goes on, I'm like, just, I'm in, right? I don't lack for something to say. We're all good. So how much do you know about old school? And just to let you know, the streams I'm doing this year is covering old school games. Not just TSR, but old school games in general. I'm also covering what you would call new games in the OSR, but I'm sort of tying the OSR to old gaming, right? Because in a way, it's considered old style of game being brought back through the OSR. So I sort of relate OSR because it's so connected to the old games I'm covering as something I cover, because it's hard to talk about the old school without talking about things like the influence certain old school games have on things like the OSR. And they seem to have more influence on the OSR games than, say, things that are produced by Wizards of the Coast, right? Now, personally, I don't cover Wizards of the Coast products. I do make exceptions to mention them or put some little bit of detail in there if I think it's necessary for the topic. But for the most part, I stick to TSR, and not just TSR, Palladium, anything from the old school era, right? Even some of the newer stuff from, Palladium coming out, it's not something I would cover this year. I'm covering things that was around my life growing up, right? So when I say old school, I was actually gaming during the old school era, late 80s, early 90s. That's when I started really into serious gaming. And so all the games that I was experiencing, running, and playing, that's what I'm talking about here, right? Now, I didn't do much in the vein of running modules, but I played in a few, so I can definitely cover some modules. We'll do that tonight. Just to sort of go up we'll go down the list of things on the topic. So I'm doing like 8 things on Gamma World tonight. Gamma World is the focus. We'll start on doing the birth, where it comes from, the seed. Then I'll cover the designer's view of Gamma World, and then the evolution of the product. And then we'll go into artifacts, and then the mutation system. And then we'll talk about some classic modules lined up with Gamma World. And then we'll talk about why it would never be a pillar for D&D. And the last part is going to cover what kind of influence that the Gamma World has on the OSR. So again, we're going to cover the birth, designer's view, evolution of the product, artifacts, the mutant system, classic modules for Gamma World, why it would never be a pillar for D&D, regardless that it used the rules, and how it influences the OSR. In many ways, it doesn't seem to do a lot of influencing in the OSR, at least on the front. But in many ways, Gamma World is, well, something in the vein of OSR, right? There's sort of an OSR take on it. So I want to go through the nuance of that because Gamma World doesn't seem to affect the OSR that much, at least on the front. When I mention Gamma World, people are like, right, when it comes to OSR games. But I think there's a lot more influence there, or potential influence that Gamma World could have, right? When I think of the OSR, I don't just think of D&D, even though a lot of people do. I look at anything where if you can make somewhat of a version of that, that's the OSR. You got to check all your legalese, but And there's a lot of retired games that I just wonder, because I haven't seen people revamp them or reproduce them. I wonder if you could do that legally, or is it owned by somebody else? Games that just no longer are out for sale, that I don't see the OSR even touching, or even to a degree being influenced by. I've been critical lately about the Bro OSR style because what they do has been done by other people, and I almost wish they would be more open-minded and look into that, because some of the things that they want to advance has already been advanced, and it could be really a lot of help to them if they would accept that, hey, maybe they didn't know or whatever, but there are people out there doing exactly what they are doing. They've been doing it for decades, and they're more advanced on that gameplay, from the domain of letting players do whatever they want, like to a point, the areas of letting players build parts of the dungeon, parts of the world, where normally the game master would do this. People have been doing that forever. The shared world gimmicks, the real-time thing, all that's being done and advanced. And I think those guys should let go of their ego and go look into it, because I hear them and they're at stages where I'm like, I knew groups that were at that stage in the 90s. So if you're just at where the guys were in the 90s, you can imagine if they kept doing the same thing you're doing, they have advanced that a lot. Well, I noticed somebody came in. So I'll go over it again. Tonight is Gamma World. Very unique, crazy pulp game. We're going to cover the birth as the first topic, and then the designer's view, James M. Ward, the evolution of the product, and then we're going to check out artifacts, and after that, mutation system, because those are two areas that are very important to the Gamma World game. And then we're going to cover some classic modules, go over some of them. And then why this would never be a pillar for D&D. I think it's just important to talk about why this thing never becomes some type of standard for D&D. It's meant to show that they can spread their wings, but not sort of be a replacement of anything. And then again, talking about how it does in ways that might not be clear, influence the OSR. Yeah. Gonna be a fun night, right? Now, I usually, like I said, I start early on nights like this that are outside of Sunday, and I usually start more like 5 minutes too, but I got guests tonight that are visiting, and they came at last minute, and I agreed to let them stay here, so to sort of avoid some of the noise or chaos that could happen, I decided to start just slightly early, just sort of get into it and be able to explain some things so we can pick this up and go, right? And this is going to be the last one of these you see for tonight, because yeah, during the streams I don't do that no more. I don't do that no more. Yeah. So here we are. I hope the connection, I've been a little paranoid because I've had problems in the past with Restream. I'm hoping that things are stable. I've kept checking. I get a little nervous when they're showing me things aren't exactly as they're supposed to be. I do all the testing I can. I reboot the system, right, pretty close to time, and make sure everything's just cleaned up and closed before I start this, because Restream has been a bit of a beast where if I don't restart or reboot, sort of refresh the system, a good hour before, some nights I can have connection issues on the stream where my connection really is okay, but for whatever reason, Restream seems to be sensitive. Now, look, it is a free program, so I roll with it as long as I can under those circumstances. And if it's good enough, if it keeps going and it keeps being smooth, at one point, yeah, I'll start paying for this. I just don't want to commit to this until I know for sure this is where I'm going to be. Like, if Restream keeps being too sensitive, I would rather pay the extra whatever amount of money for StreamYard, right? Because then at least the stability when I did StreamYard in the past was consistent. I never had problems with glitches or having an off night where it's like, oh, it's cutting me off every few moments, right? Now, I'm not saying if Restream does that once, that means Restream is no good, but I'm talking about nights where it seems I went and watched back the stream and I'm like, what the hell happened? Like, I'm glitching out in parts where I'm just like, and it's not just one time where I could understand, but it's like multiple times. And it destroys the stream because I'm doing fact-based streams where I want these things to be special, unique, and here for you to take them in. I had to redo the Ravenloft stream, even though that night I talked really well. Restream decided, yeah, well, even though your end was perfect and your connection was right and everything was good, right? And I had a storm. I had a storm one night there, but for whatever reason, my connection was perfect. Everything else was working fine. So I go into the stream, and for whatever reason, boom, boom, boom. I figured it was the storm, but then a couple nights later, I had the same problem. So I actually, I got on and talked to Restream. Went and messaged him, like, what's going on here? Like, this is so unprofessional and so stupid that it's embarrassing. And I'm sitting here spending hours of my time, labor, talking to people, giving them these fact-based things that I took a long time to put together. And all my work, it's drowned by your careless Restream system being half-assed when I've done everything right. So I wasn't happy about that, and they know that. Or I was really unhappy. It's like, well, if the system doesn't work well, why should I trust paying for the system? So to me, I'm still under what I call testing, right? Because I've had a few gimpy moments since where I'm like, is that really bad? I don't know, but it's something where StreamYard did not do that to me in the past, and so I don't like it. And I think it's stupid. It makes me look stupid. I had to do a video about Ravenloft and do the whole script over again, pretty much in video, right? Instead of doing the stream, because the stream was it was embarrassing. Dragonlance was okay, but when I covered Dragonlance, sadly, even though I did a really good job on it, there's some glitching out, not from my end, from Restream. So they started telling me to do testing. I started doing all that, going in and doing reboots. And it seemed for so many streams, I've been okay. But tonight, I've been getting this, even though I've done everything right, my connection on everything else is working. I come here and I get these little orange boxes that appear. And they appear when there might be a connection issue. They'll come down and give you a warning. I got one of those. So if you guys do notice tonight that I'm glitching out, please speak up. Let me know right away so I can, if you miss something, I can backtrack and just, say that part again so we don't miss these parts, because these facts about these games to me are really important. It's a good education. I hope it's entertaining. It's going to be interesting, especially when it comes to Gamma World, right? Gamma World is wild. And if you don't know much about the old school, you might assume just a very simple take on gaming. But you might not know that, no, there was a big experiment on gaming, and even TSR was in on the will do anything at the time. They didn't just do Dungeons and Dragons. That's true. And you'll hear me talk about other things, not just Gamma World this year, where you'll find out TSR has made a lot of interesting products, like I talked about in the last stream, the Diablo 2 game, called The Shining or something like that. or so, I forget exactly the name now. I just did the stream. I get so much in my head about Gamma World that it's let me. But there is the year 2000 TSR or WotC that was just taken over, but TSR made it brought out a Diablo 2 game based on the AD&D Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition rules. It came out in the year 2000. Okay, well, we're close enough. I'm going to start. Let's start I call this really starting the stream. And it's just giving me the warning again. So I don't know. I don't know how I'm coming across to you. I hope this is not glitching out. I hope. The seed of Gamma World, the cultural soil, mid-70s America. Gamma World doesn't start with Gamma World. It starts with Cold War nuclear anxiety. 1970s post-apocalyptic fiction. The success of early D&D, and one very important predecessor, Metamorphosis Alpha. Okay, let's talk about Metamorphosis Alpha. Metamorphosis Alpha, the immediate ancestor to Gamma World, designed by the same person who made Gamma World, James M. Ward. Metamorphosis Alpha in 1976 was a sci-fi RPG set on a generational starship featuring mutants and lost tech, but on early D&D mechanics, or built on early D&D mechanics. I apologize. So it's Metamorphosis Alpha is the ancestor of Gamma World, and it is made off of what you call the earliest, the old school, like original D&D mechanics. It already had mutations, ancient technology treated like magic, primitive tribes using advanced relics. Sound familiar? Gamma World takes the idea and moves it to Earth. So it's Metamorphosis Alpha is starting to already show you Gamma World, but Gamma World itself is going to move it to planet Earth and destroy planet Earth in the process. The core concept, Gamma World 1978 asks, what if Earth was destroyed and rebuilt into a mutant wilderness? Core pillars, post-nuclear wasteland, mutated humans, animals, and plants, lost advanced civilization, ancient tech as a treasure, random mutation generation. It wasn't grim survival horror. It was colorful, chaotic, wild, more pulp than bleak. First edition of Gamma World 1978. The original 1978 box set established percentile mutation tables, random physical and mental powers, artifact charts for figuring out ancient devices, robot encounters, ruins exploration. It leaned heavily on exploration gameplay. It was D&D structure, science fantasy skin, heavy randomness. Really important, even to character creation, which we'll get into. Mechanical DNA. Gamma World 1E used classes. Humans, mutants, pure strain of humans. So it's humans, mutants, and then some pure strain of humans. It used hit points, armor class, saving throws. Very D&D adjacent. But it introduced massive mutation variability. You could roll telekinesis, plant control, radiation emission, wings, multiple arms, character balance? No, not the priority. Chaos for the Gamma World was the priority. No balance at all. Why TSR made it? Late 70s, TSR was experimenting. They had fantasy D&D, sci-fi Metamorphosis Alpha, wargaming roots. Gamma World let TSR tap into post-apocalyptic pulp, reuse core mechanics, expand into a different genre, capture a broader audience. That was the aim. It was a genre expansion, not a replacement. So it wasn't them saying we're putting D&D to the side and focusing on this. No. It was just them showing these rules can expand out here and here, which you'll see throughout TSR lifespan, where they're always trying to take the rules and show that these rules can extend out to all these different things outside of D&D, always trying to prove that point. So it's almost like They made the attempt to not pigeonhole themselves into Dungeons and Dragons. And I don't think that was actually a bad move. I don't think they did business well on this. Now we're in opinion zone. But I think they were always, the fact is, they were always trying to show that the rules could work for more stuff. My opinion, though, is they just didn't do a great job of it overall as far as making money, making a successful product in that way. Now we're back to the facts. Tone, important distinction. Gamma World is not Mad Max realism. It is talking animals, laser pistols misused by tribes, sentient plants, ancient bunkers full of robots. It's closer to Planet of the Apes meets Thundar the Barbarian than it is gritty wasteland survival. All right. Again, it's closer to Planet of the Apes meets Thundar the Barbarian. It's not, say, gritty wasteland survival. It's not Fallout, if you get what I'm saying. Just because you hear a mutation doesn't automatically mean Fallout, right? But I'm sure some of these things are inspired or take some inspiration from Gamma World. There's no doubt. Early reception. Gamma World quickly became one of TSR's most successful non-D&D RPG lines. Out of a list of failures, it's pretty good to get a decent win. This is probably why this had so much success and multiple editions. That's why I'm covering Gamma World, because it is one of these ones where it actually hit a bit, right? It had distinct identity, strong box art presence, strong mutation gimmick appeal. It also had high lethality, high randomness, swingy characters, which fit late 70s design philosophy. What makes Gamma World different from D&D? D&D, medieval fantasy, structure, cosmology, class advancement central. Gamma World, ruins exploration, tech identification minigame, mutation unpredictability, less narrative rigidly. It's about discovery of the past, not dungeon ecology. And so it just, there's no shame in the creation of Gamma World because of who made it. James M. Ward. You'll find more. We'll talk about James in a moment here, but James M. Ward just wasn't a TSR D&D person. So his mindset in creating games was just different from Gary Gygax's. But they said, okay, we'll let him go with it. The big truth about its birth. Gamma World exists because TSR realized the D&D engine could be genre flexible. It proved D&D mechanics were modular. That lesson would echo into Boot Hill, Top Secret, Star Frontiers. Gamma World is early proof of TSR's expansion instinct. Remember what I said earlier? Through their lifespan, they're always trying to, like even Birthright being D&D or something like that, is still just them trying to say we can do something else. It's like the Curator thing, where they go after the Asian culture, and they're showing that these rules can be applied to any culture, any people. It's not just medieval Europe. And so they were always trying to prove that point. I mean, every group of staff seems to just live on that rail. Even after Gary leaves, the company keeps trying to prove the rules can do anything. And I sort of get it, because in a way, TSR plans to be around forever. And they want to make sure that they can expand what they're doing. Not just that they can. Like obviously, they can try, right? But they want to keep trying in minimal ways to get you used to it, and then maybe pick up on some big products. And why wouldn't you think that when you've had early success with something like Gamma World? You think, well, we keep doing stuff like this, we'll keep making lots of money. And then imagine when you're running out of money for D&D, and you're like, well, we did Gamma World, let's do some more. So it's them. So the expansion idea was TSR trying to say, we're here for the long run. Gamma World wasn't just proof. No. Gamma World wasn't just post-apocalyptic D&D. It was TSR testing whether fantasy mechanics could survive nuclear fallout. That's why a lot of people will relate this to Fallout. It's not exactly that, but I sort of get it. And this, where D&D feared chaos, Gamma World embraced chaos. So, look, it's not like D&D goes into balanced combat or worries about that in a way, but there is a bit of balancing that goes on with the game in a general sense. This is definitely different with Gamma World. The idea of balance, it just, the guy who made this game didn't care. I don't say that in a bad way. That's his take on this is he just didn't care. And we're going to get into him now. We're talking strictly TSR era work from James M. Ward, Metamorphosis Alpha, Gamma World, and later TSR editions of Gamma World. That's what we're covering tonight. Ward was not a simulationist. Let me say that again, because all Gary Gygax and all of them were simulationists. That's a big part of D&D. Ward was not a simulationist. This is critical. Ward did not design for realism. He did not design for careful balance. He did not design for tight mechanical symmetry. He designed for surprise, chaos, emergent play, table energy. If Gygax was structured wargame discipline, Ward was creative volatility. Creative craziness. That's what Ward was. He was out there, but in a good way for what we do. And his mind was made for making this Gamma World thing. Randomness was a feature, not a flaw. Some people look at the randomness and go, why am I getting something useless for my character? We'll get into that, but that's by design. That's not a flaw of the game. Gamma World's mutation tables are infamous. You could roll flight, disintegration, multiple limbs, mind control, radiation and immunity, or something borderline useless. Ward believed the dice should create the character, not the player. You say that again. Ward believed the dice should create the character, not the player. So you let the dice make the character and you play what you got. Okay. That's old school philosophy. So in that way, he's old school. Because that is old school. Old school, even D&D, believe that the dice should pretty much make your character for the most part. It's why the idea of the backstory to the character was sort of meaningless. It was like, it's something you could talk about with, like, you could sort of make up for the character as you're going along with. So why would you say your character did that? Well, his daddy did that. You're not going to write a backstory. These things, the idea is it's meant to develop as you play, right? So even if there is such a thing, it's all emerging from what you're doing. It's not something you tried to create beforehand. You let the dice create the character. You play the character. You don't design a build. You discover what the wasteland turned you into. That mindset is deeply 70s. I'll go back to this. You discover what the wasteland turned you into. You don't design a build. That mindset is deeply 70s TSR. Like old school original mindset of the dice do most of the stuff for you. Mutation as identity. Ward's core design belief. Mutation isn't just a mechanic. Mutation is not just a mechanic. It is world logic. Let me say that again. Mutation isn't just a mechanic. It is world logic, and that's important. Gamma World isn't about human survival after the apocalypse. It's about a new evolutionary explosion. So this is where I say it's not really followed, because it's not meant to be after the explosion. You're walking around, everyone's just mutated. It's a period of time after the explosion, and this is the evolution, the growth of things coming out of what has happened, out of any apocalypse. Humans are not central. Pure strain humans are actually rare and sometimes weaker. It rejects fantasy human default assumptions. Really does. Like you're playing mutants. Technology as magic. This is wise. This is opinion. So when I designed my game, or I was making a variety of games, I thought about, like, what about a game with no magic or no this or no that? And I start realizing It's almost like D&D did figure out the blueprint to a tabletop or a role-playing game, whatever term you want to use. I think it like figured out a blueprint that I've seen almost every other game copy after this. And what I mean by this, well, let me explain. It's opinion. But I think it blueprinted what a game is. Whenever you see most tabletop role-playing games without certain things that D&D would have, they have a replacement. Like they have something like this technology as magic in this example, but it's you realize you need these features. Like even if you don't want to play D&D with magic, it does something for the game that without it, it's a big takeaway and you need something to replace it. If not, the game can just dry up to a drama class when you go beyond using these other elements that really make up gameplay. They blueprinted out what a game is, at least one of these role-playing games. And every time you see something missing, it's like you usually see something in its place. And I really believe that's through influence, because when I was designing a game, I started trying, like, well, what if I take out a game, make a game without magic? And I tried it, and it was fucking boring because there's a feature there. So I did some testing. Let's test without magic. Let's test without these things. And the people that were helping me test it agreed. It was just, there was something missing. And not just because we like D&D. There was something missing. There was a trigger not happening at the table. Right? So I've noticed every game sort of has a thing. Maybe it's a gameplay thing. Maybe it's this. But it is a thing to sort of take up where these other things are taken away. Gamma World is the same. Technology as magic. Back to the facts. Ward leaned hard into this idea. Ancient tech should feel mysterious. And Gamma World, you don't just pick up a laser rifle and shoot. You experiment. You misfire. You blow things up. You die sometimes. Artifact charts became a minigame. He wanted discovery tension. He did not want clean, predictable equipment use. So you could pick up the laser gun, you press the button, it blows you up. Oh shit! Like, you know what I mean? Like and the game doesn't care. In the modern world where you'd be like, man, I'm against character death. This game doesn't give a fuck what you're against. This game is just gonna, oh yeah, trigger, boom, you're dead. Oh, you walk this way. Oh, I stepped on the thing. Oh shit, I'm dead. Like this is old school and the D&D mindset of. And Ward, even though he's not a simulationist, there are some aspects that he likes about D&D. And hey, that struggle to survive isn't the complete focus here, but it's one of them. So he didn't want the game to be easy. He wants you to be in a situation all the time. Lethality was acceptable. Let me say that. Lethality was acceptable. Ward did not build safety nets. Characters could die from failed artifact checks. So again, you pick up an artifact, you go, here, let me just try, dead. Like just like that. Mutate, like an apocalyptic mutation could happen to you. Face robots they couldn't defeat. Like he didn't mind. It's almost back to that old D&D thing. If the dragon is in the woods, the dragon is meant to be in the woods. So are we supposed to fight it, DM? The world doesn't care about the characters, guys. I don't know. I've seen that warning again. I hope my connection is good. But he's in the old school of, I don't care. Like, it's, you're worried about death. That doesn't matter. Oh, it says lost, reconnecting. Oh my. Let me refresh. This is okay. Hopefully everything's back to normal or somewhat normal, or the connection's all over the place. And I'll tell you this, if the connection is bad, it's probably going to be the last time you see me attempting to use Restream in this way. I'm very unhappy with them. Everything is completely fine on my end for connection. I've done all the testing. I should be good. It keeps telling me I'm having connection issues. This is 100% on the end of Restream. It's unprofessional and embarrassing, right? I should have a pretty, like I could understand if there was connection issues on my end tonight, and that's just a problem I'm going to run into, but I'm very unhappy with Restream because this keeps happening. Stuff like this keeps happening where it's completely on their end, right? So it's, hey, Restream, You got to do better. This is completely, it's embarrassing and unprofessional nonsense. Had somebody here, they probably left because of connection issues, and I have no idea. So that's sad. I'm sad about that. I hope most of this is going fine. I don't know where it is, but let me get back to lethality was acceptable. Ward did not build safety nets. Characters could die from failed artifact checks. Have, apocalyptic mutations. Face robots they couldn't defeat. So there was no chance. But that wasn't cruelty. It was high stakes exploration. It's the old school thing of the thing is not there because the characters are there. So it's not like the world doesn't look at itself like a game. So the DM is meant to look at the world like a real place. It's not like the world knows you're a player playing a character in a game. So if there's robots there, they're just there because they're meant to be there. They're not there because they're meant to be there for you to face them. So if you choose to go explore and take a dangerous step in the wrong direction, you could easily die. You could easily run into a threat that you have no chance against. And there'd be no apologies. This is by design. This is not a game flaw, right? Oh, my. Okay. So it was high stakes exploration, very early TSR mentality. The world doesn't scale to you, right? The world doesn't scale to you, right? The world doesn't care. Oh my. Setting philosophy. Weird, over grim Gamma World could have been bleak. It could have been bleak. Ward didn't go that route. Instead, he chose talking badgers, psychic plants, android warlords, colorful chaos. He preferred wild pulp science fantasy over hard post-popular misery. That tone choice matters, right? With that tone choice matters. Gamma World is dangerous, but not nihilistic. Very dangerous. New school people think that Gamma World is extreme, like extreme on the lethal end, right? But for old school, this was the way the game was meant to be. Evolution from Metamorphosis Alpha. In Metamorphosis Alpha, you're trapped on a generational ship. Mutations are accidental. Tech is lost knowledge. Sorry about any background noise. Gamma World expands the canvas. Now, the whole planet is the dungeon. So it's not like there's a dungeon, but the whole planet is a dungeon. Ruins are mega dungeons. The apocalypse is ancient history. Ward scaled up that concept. So again, evolution from Metamorphosis Alpha, right? You're trapped on a generational ship. Mutations are accidental. Tech is lost knowledge. Gamma World expands the canvas, right? So now the whole planet is a dungeon. Ruins are mega dungeons. The apocalypse is ancient history. Ward scaled up the concept. Ward versus other TSR designers. Let's contrast quickly. Gygax, structure, codification, hierarchy. Arneson, loose, improvisation, scenario-based experimentation. Ward, controlled randomness, high varied systems, surprise first design. He trusted the dice to generate narrative. That's distinct. So Ward gives the dice a lot of work. Like a lot more work than other, D&D stuff. Like he really lets the dice ride the game, like in a lot of areas. And he has tables and everything for you to use to back that up. If you strip it down, Ward believed players should adapt to the world, not the world adapt to them. So they should learn as they're playing that new character. And if he dies, you're playing a new character, learn about the world. Like learn from that mistake. Randomness fuels creativity. So the randomness through tables and everything he's giving the DM or the game master and the game itself, it's meant to create a sort of just random chaotic outcome, but for the sake of creativity. Stephen Kennedy, oh, you're here. Dude, I haven't really hit too far into it, right? I've been having difficulties. Stephen, do I seem like I'm coming across fine to you right now? Connection good? I hope so. And if it is going good, good. Again, I'll start here. If you strip it down, Gamma World, we believe players should adapt to the world. Well, we got some. We're in first D still, but we'll go through the additions. We're at the start. Again, if you strip it down, War believe players should adapt to the world. Randomness fuels creativity. Discovery is more important than balance. Right? So it's not a worry about balance. It's you take your chances. Weirdness keeps the game alive. Gamma World embodies all four of these things. James M. Ward didn't design Gamma World to be fair. He designed it to be unpredictable. And Gamma World is what happens when you let the dice mutate your imagination. When you let the dice really control what's going on, that will resonate, right? You'll feel it. You'll know it. The hard truth. Ward's philosophy works brilliantly if players accept chaos. The table embraces swingy outcomes. The GM leans into discovery, the GM. If it struggles if players want optimization or if players want predictable power growth. The table wants narrative safety, or the table that divides still exists today. That table still exists today. So you're not going to find that stuff here. This is a place where it's unsafe, and you got to just be okay with it, right? I'm in the pipe. It means I'm doing good. That's good. That's good. So remember, it's deadly, and he just doesn't care. It's old school D&D in that way. But the only difference between James M. Ward and the TSR designers is he's not a simulationist. And so you will find aspects that don't seem to be so applied here as they are in D&D. But it is using the D&D rules. It is using a lot of the old school mindset, which I point out here. The only major difference, and it is a major one, is James Ward is not a simulationist. Okay. I open with the birth and James Ward. So even Stephen Kennedy just getting here. We're really going to get more into the game now. This is the evolution of the product. So we're going to talk about the different editions. First edition, 1978, the raw experiment, identity, wild, lethal, and swinging, built directly off of early D&D. Metamorphosis Alpha mutation concept was taken from that game. Metamorphosis Alpha. Characteristics, heavy percentile mutation tables, high character mortality, sparse but flavorful setting information. So it's not a lot of setting information, but where you do read about the setting, it's really well written. It's really colorful. It's meant to be that way. So it's trying to do a lot with a lot less as far as giving you a lot to read. It's not a lot, but what you do get should feed what you need. Artifacts use is extremely dangerous. Randomness everywhere. Randomness is Gamma World. Just understand. I just want you to take that in. When you play Gamma World, just be ready to deal with the random. Oh yeah, Boot Hill came after this. This is it. This is their real lean into something different. This would inspire things like you get Boot Hill and Star Frontier and some other things. So this is the most chaotic version, the 1978 first version of Gamma World. Post-apocalyptic original D&D. That's what it is. Or it feels closest to post-apocalyptic OD&D. That's what I would say. Balance, not the goal. Discovery and danger, absolutely. So just saying, hey, like you might walk in there and die, and you might have no chance in that cave. You might go in, there might be robots there, and you're like, well, why am I walking by it? Well, the world just doesn't care. It's just saying, be cautious, be careful, but you can't absolutely be careful. And so if you go into that cave, you might meet with the robot who just has stats that you have no chance. Right? That's how it is. And you'd be like, is there something wrong with the game? Is it broken? It's like, nope, that's the way it's meant to be. Now, as Stephen Kennedy was hinting towards, second edition, 1983. Thundar the Barbarian. That's it's they were there. People asked me about Gamma World before I did this. Is it Fallout? And I'm like, no. And the way I put it down was it's like Planet of the Apes meets Thunder the Barbarian. Right. So I think more Planet of the Apes mixed with a bit of this Dunbar thing that Stephen Kennedy's mentioned. But we're at the second edition, which is Stephen Kennedy mentioned already. Second edition, 1983, refinement phase. What changed? Streamlined presentation, cleaner organization, mutation charts refined, slightly more structure in combat. Yep. Still retained random mutation identity. Artifact minigame still. High lethality. But it became more playable. Like the first E is the Wild West, right? You could just blow up any night trying to play the game. So it could be challenging to play the game. This is meant to be more playable, more lasting of an experience, right? But still it could all blow up. Less rough edge experimental. So there's a lot of experimenting, and we're not really sure about things with the first Gamma World. Where by this stage, and remember, that's all the designers are really doing. All of this is just game testing. Even what we do is game testing, right? That's why you'll never find all the flaws. That's why players constantly find a broken piece with every game on the market. So it still had artifact minigame, high lethality, but it became more playable, less rough edge experimental. TSR was learning layout and clarity lessons from AD&D growth, from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So that work obviously is going to sit there and advance other products they have. That's what it did here. Gamma sickness is an unseen killer. So many useless things you could end up like so many ways you could die. Like I talked about this already, Steven. I don't know if you came in for this one, but it's like the artifact testing. You pick up an artifact, go like let me try this thing with it. You blow up. Or you pick up a gun to fire. You're like, it's a relic. Okay, it's a laser gun. What do I do? Or I got to pull the trigger to find out. And the game doesn't give a fuck. Lethality was just brutal in 1E. It's still as brutal with second edition, I would say, but it's slightly more playable. It's slightly nicer to new people coming in. Third edition, 1986. Stabilization. This is often considered the strongest TSR-era version. Steven likes second edition. I actually like the crazy first edition, to be real with you. I don't mind third, but you're saying I like the crazy. Stabilization. This is often considered the strongest TSR version. Why? Best balance between chaos and clarity. So it does a better job, and I do agree, if you read it, it does a better job at giving you clarity on things. Like I talked about Spelljammer the other night. We're talking about spaceships and gravity, and it's really hard to understand some of that stuff because it is so vague with the explanations, right? That doesn't work. But it's like you get to in Spelljammer, you get this explanation of how you apply the ships and gravity and all this, and you're like, what if I walk over here, I fall? Like I just go. It's hard to understand where the difference when you get the third edition with this game with Gamma World. The clarity on some of the things that might be harder to understand from the previous editions, it's there. Like you feel it's there. Stronger implied setting cohesion. So again, it's all better explained. It doesn't mean the chaos doesn't exist from the previous games or the previous editions. It's way better explained. It's all through them learning and advancing how they put up products and give you information, right? Because, it's you put out a product and then you go talk to some players and like, man, it would have been nice to know this. Well, if you're working at TSR, you go back. They would like to know this. And guess what? Second edition, they like to know that. By third edition, they like to know that. So let's see. Best balance between chaos and clarity. Stronger implied setting cohesion. Improved mechanical presentation. Cleaner mutation structure. It still embraced swingy randomness, but it felt more polished, less chaotic for chaos' sake. But at this point, TSR had matured as a publisher. So you really are seeing the company go from just some amateur people getting together to try to start a business. And everyone working there are just fucking amateur people that know nothing about real business stuff. And it's not like there's all kinds of other companies before them doing this exact thing, but there are companies in other fields, and they started looking at that stuff. But by third edition, you definitely see some of the more polished, like TSR seems to be a bit more professional as a company, right? So more polished, less chaotic for chaos sake. That's true. Fourth edition, 1992 TSR. Now, I don't cover anything WotC, so I won't lie to you. I just haven't looked into the WotC stuff. Never interested me. Didn't care. Fourth edition, 1992 TSR. Narrative shift. Now we're in early 90s TSR energy. Oh, yeah. What changed? More structured world assumptions, slightly more narrative framing, toned down chaos, but not removed, but definitely toned down, cleaner character progression. This is what people want regardless. Still mutation heavy, still artifact risk heavy, but you can feel TSR leaning towards story presentation. This is the era when TSR was expanding settings aggressively, producing box campaign worlds, adding more world identity to products. Gamma World become less random wasteland generator and more defined post-apocalyptic world. So it's a better explained package. I still like going back to the I don't totally get this package of first edition. I think first edition is so crazy. But it's that creative craziness that I like. I like to be crazy. So I have actually ran Gamma World. I prefer to run Gamma World first. I did the second edition, even the third and the fourth. I prefer to go back to just the chaos in one day. Like just the original D&D rules. Just because to me, that's more pure James M. Ward. Like the work that comes later is a bit of James Ward being an advisor to his own work for other people working on it. James M. Ward, his handprints are on the first edition. It's still there in all the other editions, but it's his real hands-on work is there. Okay. What stayed constant across TSR? Mutation randomness never disappeared. Artifact danger never vanished through all these editions. Pure strain versus mutant tension remained. Weirdness was preserved, pulp weirdness. That's important. TSR did not sanitize Gamma World into realism. They preserved its identity. So you got to give them some credit here because it can seem like they're trying to water something down, but instead they're trying to give you something more people want, but they want to maintain what it really is. And you know, that's what it is. And they need something new. You need new, and you got to listen to people, but they respected the work of James M. Ward, and anyone who says otherwise, I think they've lost the plot on understanding what was going on. You do need to change products and change with times and change with customers. And they were doing that, but preserving, right? Going to gameplay more people want, but preserving. And no matter how much a guy like me likes first edition, TSR is a business at the time, and they need to reach out to the majority. So even if I disagree with the majority about certain ways of like progression, like I don't care for it in Gamma World, but I do understand the majority. If they were to play Gamma World, that's what they want. And TSR is a business, so fuck me. I'm a minority in that case, and TSR would be good. It'd be good business. And they didn't do this that well with other minorities, but I would tell TSR right away, it'd be good to ignore my ass no matter what I say to you and understand you're a business that needs to survive. And if you listen to me, you'll go out of business, right? That's what I would tell TSR. Like, I'm a minority guy on Gamma World, right? Just like many people in different editions, but TSR had a habit of listening to the minority with D&D. I wish they would have did what they did with Gamma World, which is listen to more people. They adjusted to the majority instead of adjusting to the minority. Again, if TSR would have listened to my opinions about Gamma World, any chance of success with the greater market, they'd fail. So as much as I like the early Gamma World stuff, and I do see it as a bit watered down later, it's, you know, you're not going to stay in business if you try to cater to a minority like myself at that point in Gamma World. You put yourself out of business. So my opinion is no good to you, right? Again, I criticize old school guys where the TSR we're back to opinion to fact, but it's opinion, I think, backed up by fact, where TSR spent a lot of time stupidly going after what they thought was potentially the majority, but they went after and tried to cater to a minority for many years. And it ended up, I think, it put TSR in a bad place. And then when they tried to rebuild after getting to a bad place, they collapsed because, well, they should have spent more years trying to go after the majority. For whatever reason, Gamma World, you could see them learn this. Oh, yeah, 1E was a blast, but you can at least see where they learned to go after the majority instead of the minority. And I'm like, why didn't they do that with D&D? Like, I look at Gamma World as TSR did it right. They went after the majority. Good. Yep. Don't bother with a minority like me. I'll put you out of business if you listen to me. Right? On Gamma World anyway, right? So I'll be like, hey, make the Gamma World I want. Well, there goes TSR. So TSR was wise to just ignore people like me and just go, yeah, sorry, dude, we're a business that needs to survive, so we need to go after the majority and not cater to you. Totally get it, and I respect that. Actually, I think it's wise. And I would trust the company more if they ignored me and went after that majority than I would trust the company if TSR would have turned around and said, Steven, we'll actually try to serve you instead of the majority. And I'd be like, well, then you're dumbasses. Then you're a stupid fucking business, and you should go to business, and I won't feel bad when Wizards of the Coast buys you out. That's what I would say, right? Back to the facts. So again, we talked about what stayed constant. So they preserved identity. What evolved over time? Layout improved. Balance improved slightly. Setting cohesion increased. Presentation matured, but core engine remained unpredictable, evolutionary chaos. There's definitely a feel there, a bit of the savagery and the idea of post-apocalyptics or post-apocalypse or something like that, like in a fucking burnt-out world. But in a way, it's still Conan to me. Don't get it wrong, I like Hyperborea, I don't mind it. And I covered it, as you know. Now, I was very honest to the game, and it reminds me of Conan, but I do like the freedom. Like, it does feel like if you want to play in the Conan world, more like an MMO where you had the randomness. It's almost like it's a better at the table MMO version of Conan than the Conan games. So the Conan games will give you Conan and the feel of Conan. That's the idea, right? Where these games give you a Conan world, just say, here's a regular person, good luck, fucking get out there and play. Yay. I like that. Big pattern. Gamma World mirrors TSR itself. 1978 experimental explosion. Mid-80s professional stabilization. Early 90s structured world building era. Then TSR financial collapse begins in mid-90s. Gamma World never became a flagship line like D&D, but it persisted. That says something. A lot of things didn't persist, didn't get another thing, didn't get a continuation. Agreed, Stephen Kennedy, Conan, talking about Hyperborea. Totally agree. But the fact that Gamma World was a very successful product does say something, because let's be honest, TSR didn't hit it out of the park with a lot of things outside of D&D, right? So, but that's, again, Gamma World is the one time I seen them go, because in almost every other product, you just say they put it out because it was experimenting, interest, whatever. Gamma World is the first one where I really seen TSR go, all right, the minority doesn't like probably what we're going to do with second edition or third edition or fourth edition, but we've talked to players, and this seems to represent a majority's opinion, that they want this change. It's the one time I seen TSR actually adjust a game to the majority. I'm like, if you ever wonder why TSR went into business, my opinion, they carelessly were really stupid at business, and they went after the wrong people. Oh, I'm glitching a bit. It's so sad. So sad, because I worked on this. I don't want to have to do another video, but hopefully it doesn't keep glitching. I hope the glitching earlier wasn't bad either, but I don't know. I want to tell you guys, and Stephen Kennedy watching this, my connection is perfect. Yeah, don't worry about typos or missed stuff. It's my connection is perfect. I've done testing. I rebooted the system. I shut everything down like I always do before the stream. I even tested it up the last minute. My connection is fucking mint. If I'm glitching, this is 100% on the end of Restream. Dragon Dice, we'll get there. Big pattern. Again, the Gamma World mirrors TSR itself, like I said. So it all says something. Gamma World never stopped being weird. TSR just got better at presenting the weird. And from 1978 to 1992, Gamma World grew up, but it never grew tame. That's the evolution story. So it grew up and adjusted to make some things easier for the majority. Oh, probably that might be that too, Stephen Kennedy, sadly. Right? Again, just not on my end, which is sad because it's so unprofessional and stupid. Like I've been questioning if I'll keep using Restream because I used StreamYard a few years ago, and I've never had this issue, and so this is quite embarrassing that happens. So it's not in my control, but people still look at me like, oh yeah, you're probably making excuses or something. I'm like, I'm not, dude. Restream is screwy, but whatever. So the evolution story is it grew up, but it kept the artifact stuff. It kept the danger. It kept a lot of things because TSR actually preserved it. So it's a one time where preservation is important, but they really do adjust to the majority. I never seen another product, not even D&D, where TSR adjusted to the majority, right? Like D&D, they served a minority pretty much, and to me, because D&D was the flagship product, if you do that with your flagship product, it's going to sooner or later put you out of business because you can't produce enough money from the minority. And as we know with TSR's history, that minority became super picky. And then when we get to the WotC era, WotC does all the same things TSR does, but they purposely go after a majority. And even though they're putting out similar products in the same exact way, but they're catering to the majority opinion, they pretty much WotC just looked at TSR and said, hold my beer, watch this. I'm going to take your product. I'm going to do exactly what you're doing. But the only difference between WotC and TSR is we're going to cater to the majority with different changes. You cater to the minority. And WotC went on to have great success. And it's too bad TSR never just picked that up and realized it. It's WotC. Look at how they brought out games almost the same way as TSR. They pretty much stayed on the track of TSR. The only major change WotC makes in a real production way is they go after the majority audience. TSR served a minority, and to this day, no one's going to tell me otherwise. That is exactly what put them out of business, because that minority was not a loyal customer base. The difference is when you go to the majority, they come back for everything. Like it's a lot easier just to get them to buy your product because you're WotC and they like WotC and WotC puts out something new. Here's WotC. Yeah, and you want to know what? They're putting stuff out and they're probably selling it just as well, if not better than TSR. But it's the one time TSR actually did good and Gamma World sold well. How ironic. Gamma World is probably one of the more successful products outside of D&D for TSR. And it's the one time where they're serving the majority over time instead of a minority. And you're like, wow, that leads to success? Too bad TSR didn't figure that out with D&D, right? Like, serve a majority, it will keep you in business. And WotC embarrassed them because WotC came out and just said, we're going to sell the game the same way, put out products in the same exact way you guys do. But the only difference between WotC and TSR, WotC said, what does the majority want? We'll do that instead. Yeah. And they got loyal customers from it. That's why WotC to this day is in business. And that's what TSR wanted to be. They wanted to be that professional company. It's just the thing is, they had nerd leaders. And for a period of time, their amateur years of TSR, I really believe this. I really, really believe this. The guys who were designing the game were no different than the minority that they served. So Gary was more like the minority of people that they were serving, and he wasn't like the majority. And so were many of the guys. And so they kept serving a minority, right? And you could even hear it in their opinions. They would, I would hear designers criticize, the majority. Oh, players want this, screw them. It's like, well, dude, that's your customer base, dude. They wouldn't care. So TSR designers, I think, just broke their legs. It's a shame. They shouldn't have done that. Should have never just mouthed off about the majority customer. Nope. Remember, second ed comes out after TSR collapses. So you have like 90% of the customers leave the company. And second ed, like many products, was just it was gambling to try to get customers to come back. Because if you actually check out the real market, and I've talked to Gary Dragonsfoot, second ed, even though you'll hear old school guys claim this, it's an agenda. They say second edition put TSR out of business. I'm like, that is just factually not true. The market and all the information, which I've seen myself from back in the day, it shows exactly when TSR goes off. And here's the problem. AD&D 1 turned off the majority of people that bought that game, and it made them stop buying D&D products. Imagine you go buy AD&D 1. Now, you're like most customers, you're not a wargamer. So you see the images on AD&D 1, and you're told you're going in to play a hero. So you see images of the knight fighting the dragon fights and all this, and you're told you're going to be a hero. Okay, that's what you buy the game for. And I talked to many guys that bought it for that experience. What they didn't know was they were going to play a regular guy who would go grind in the mud in the dungeon forever, and almost every DM you would meet would not DM the game past level 8. So it's like, okay, you mean, so I bought it for that. What am I doing? Okay, all right, we're close to the level where we can fight a dragon, DM. It's like, we'll be level 9 soon. The game is over, level 8, for most first edition AD&D games. So basically, the entire thing that sold the game, and I don't think TSR realizes just how many people bought the game for the images and the hero claim. Like, you put the word hero, you put images of a guy out fighting a dragon, people are like, we're buying it for that reason. Oh, a lot of the younger players that you see did play with second ed, but here's what happened, Stephen. Second ed became popular after TSR went out of business. And it was very popular. You're not wrong, but it just wasn't. It didn't get the commercial hype that it needed to save the company. So second edition became popular, and even when third edition came out, because second edition was so popular, it actually competed with third edition for probably another like 5 years. Like if you went to public gaming or online gaming, it was half the games were third or second edition. You'd barely find any OD&D or first edition AD&D. If you played online, it was, yeah. So second edition was successful, but it was just the early 2000s. And I know that because when I got online, I started doing online gaming. I was doing in-person group, but we did a few. I did audio, but I also did this text thing. It was called Open RPG. And it was very successful. Second edition actually is the reason the Dragon's Foot forum was so popular. Like if you went to the Dragon's Foot forum back in like at that period of time when I came on here in the early 2000s, the most activity wasn't even in the general section. It was for a period of time. The majority of posts were all AD&D second edition area Dragon's Foot. And you would know this because all their main mods focused on that area alone, mostly. Because there were so many people actively there. So you're right. You're not wrong, but just never saved the company. Okay, now we're on to artifacts. What artifacts actually are in this game? Artifacts are pre-apocalypse technology, weapons, medieval devices, robots, power armor, sometimes mundane items, ID cards, scanners, power packs. To Gamma World characters, these are ancient relics of a lost civilization. They are not just something you're going to know how to use. Like that's where you pick up that laser gun. How do you use it? They are not labeled, right? So it's not meant to be an easy thing to figure these things out. One of the best GMs I know is a hardcore second ed guy. With Stephen Kennedy, and our guys already know my opinion of this. And I'll say it to this day because it's just a personal experience I had. No edition, not in WotC, and no edition before second edition produced the amount of great game masters that second ed produced. Second ed produced, well, put it this way, AD&D 1, 30% of their DMs might be really, really good. OD&D, 30% of their DMs might be really, really good. When you get to the WotC games, because a lot of the old guys don't move over, more like 10 or 15% of the third edition guys are pretty good, like good to great. Fourth edition, maybe 5% of those guys are good to great. 5e, we're probably back at around 10 to 15% are pretty great. But if you went back to second edition, 80 to 90% of the DMs that produced were fucking great, good to great. I never seen another edition of D&D produce good to great DMs on that scale. Not even close. Second edition produced the best game masters I've ever met in my life. And I tell anybody, if you want a game master and you're old school, put AD&D 1 down, put OD&D down, pick up second edition, right? And you'll get there. That's where you learn to be a real DM, in my opinion. It's all experimental with OD&D and AD&D 1, right? It's the maturity of the company. They do get it right on the DM thing. The maturity is by the time second edition comes around, they teach it well. And again, I don't know why this didn't translate or carry over to third edition. I don't get it. And I don't get how second edition exactly, it just does a great job. Like 90% of its guys are fucking good to great. That's unheard of with even other tabletop role-playing games. You go to the vampires, maybe 5% of those guys are actually good at doing their story gaming, right? Like really good to great. So it's just, I never seen another tabletop role-playing game outside of second edition produce like fucking just a surreal amount of great game masters. And I'm one of them. And I am fucking good. I'm confident enough to say that. I won't say I'm the best or better than other people, but I know I'm good. And I've done this game mastering thing for so long that I can't really fuck it up. Like I'm at that stage where, and I try to tell that to people. It's like I'm go barely trying. I'll get it right just because I just know. Like I've done it so often that I can't really fuck it up. Just to be honest, that's how comfortable I am with game mastering. Again, okay. So artifacts uses pure strain humans versus mutants. Critical difference. Artifact uses is where pure strain humans shine. Pure strain humans, PSH. Higher chance to understand artifacts. So artifacts, when you're playing a pure strain humans, it's a lot easier to figure that part out. Oh, I hear you. I hear you. Before I go back to the facts, I'll say this. I played for about the first 10 years of my gaming. Now, I could say I sort of played off and on, but nothing too serious after that. I consider after the first 10 years, I really retired as a player, and I became just DM. People are like, are you forever DM? I'm like, no. Well, aren't you? I'm like, well, if you mean, do I DM because I have no other choice? No. I'm offered games all the time. I could play in games for all the years I've been in the hobby. I've never lacked a game being offered to me, right? So I've never been in a situation where I have to DM. It's just I got sick of playing the game because, well, Steven, you say you're lucky. I was lucky too, but sort of bad luck. My first DM was the best. It's the best DM I've ever met that I've ever played the game for. And he was so good. His game was like fucking like a drug. Absolutely, I was addicted to his game. Absolutely addicted to his game, right? But he passed away. And on top of that, no one else after him was as good. Okay. Okay, so like I said, pure strain humans versus mutants. So artifact use is where it's really important to be a pure strain human. Pure strain human, it's just basically it's someone who's not gone through mutation. They're still basic human people. They can be weaker because of this. But one thing they have advantage is understanding things like artifacts, which makes them more reliable to play because so many things can happen when you fuck around with artifacts. Yeah, Stephen Kennedy agreed. It is sad he passed away, but it was one of these things where the standard was set so high that the only thing I could do was become as good as him at DMing or game mastering. I couldn't find another game master that was Oh, I appreciate it. We were so close that when his sons died, he left a lot of his gaming stuff to me, and they game with us. So I was surprised, but he became my mentor, and even his sons called me up and said, "Steve," I said, "Well, you guys should keep this stuff." They're like, "No, Steven, you're like his kid at the game." I'm like, "Yeah, but you're his sons." They were like, "Well, we're not insulted. You were his guy, right?" He was getting me ready to DM for years. He made me play every single alignment. He made me play so much stuff before I was allowed to even run. And he actually said, and I listened to him. He's like, "You're not allowed." First year I wanted to run, I was like, "Can I run a game?" It's like, "Nope, you're not allowed." Why? He's like, "You don't know enough." But a lot of new school people have no idea like what old school was like. Like I remember I was young and I said to people that I wanted to game, "Hey, can I play the game?" They threw the fucking book at my goddamn head. Now it missed. And they said, "Yeah, go read that and come back and talk to us in a week." Okay. See, like today, players are fucking pampered. Back in old school, they'd just be like, "Here, go read that and come back in a week." Okay. Now I read it front to back. And score, yeah. Got in the game. Back to the facts, though. So, higher chance to understand artifacts, less likely catastrophic failure, right? Social advantage in tech using communities. So, they again, in tech using communities, they're known to be better with tech. Mutants, lower chance of proper use, greater chance of malfunction with mutants, more likely to trigger dangerous effects. This is intentional design balance. Mutants get powers, pure straight humans get technology mastery. The artifact identification flow, clean breakdown. Here's how it works in practice. Step one, find the artifact. Could be laser pistol, force field belt, grenade, med kit, robot control device. Players do not automatically know what it is. Step two, determine complexity level. Each artifact has a complexity rating. Higher complexity, harder to understand. Step three, attempt to identify. The player rolls on the artifact use table based on character type, intelligence, sometimes experience level. Result determines fail, partial understanding, correct use, or catastrophic misuse. Pure straight human, baby. Gotta love those pure straight humans. But catastrophic misuse. Yeah, the gun blows up in your hand. Failure isn't just it doesn't work. This is important. Failure might mean it drains all the charges instantly. It explodes. It shocks the user. It activates randomly. It locks permanently. Artifact use is high risk. That's intentional tension. So by design. But well, yeah. Power cells and charges. Most tech runs on power cells. Key mechanic. Players don't always know how many charges remain, how to replace power cells. If the device is damaged, you could find a perfect laser rifle with one charge left. Resource tension is constant. So because of this, resources can be very challenging in this type of game. So it can be resource tension is constant. Robots as artifacts. Robots are handled similarly. You don't just command them. You must identify control systems, avoid triggering defense protocols, avoid activating security modes. Robot might kill you. Robots often have standing orders from centuries ago, which can be disastrous. Like, hey, you're supposed to blow up this entire place, but he got shut down. You turn him back on. He's like, okay, let's do it. Do what? I'm going to blow up this. Artifact use as a mini game. This is what makes Gamma World unique. Artifact interaction becomes exploration within exploration. It's not I equip laser rifle. It's what does this glowing cylinder do? The GM rolls secretly sometimes, tracks charges, manages misfires. It adds suspense. Why it was designed this way. James Ed Ward wanted ancient tech to feel alien, pre-war civilization to feel godlike, because they have tech way beyond you. Discovery to be dangerous. If tech worked cleanly every time, the mystery would disappear. Artifact charts preserve mystery. It's important to the process. It's the mystery is the tension. I don't know. I could blow up. I could. That's by design. Tone impact. Artifact mechanics make Gamma World feel like a big archaeology, like a big dig for the bones, for the missing pieces. What was under the thing? What was here before? Dangerous, experimental, slightly absurd. Because you can find some stupid things. You might blow yourself up trying to turn on a flashlight. That's on brand, baby. See, you're like, it's just I would describe whatever a flashlight is to you. You turn it on, and that thing blows up, blows your arm off, blows you up. That is by design. That's not a flaw in the game. Imagine some new school people hear some of this stuff and just go, the fuck? Mark V. Blaster. Where it is strong, it builds tension, encourages experimentation, makes tech rare and valuable, reinforces setting theme. Weaknesses. This can frustrate players. I know. And I did get frustrated. Requires heavy GM tracking. So it's not simulation, but the tracking of the rations and all that you might do as a D&D player. Well, imagine times that by like 150%, and then hand that over to the DM and go, here, you got to do that, dude. That can be Gamma World. You can be tracking so many little things to make sure things. Oh, light flash. So another weakness is slow pacing is overused. So slow pacing is almost built into it, but it can suck. Like, not all parts slow pacing is really bad, but it can be, all right? Power imbalance between character types. Some groups host-ruled artifact use to make it smoother. But raw TSR design embraced risk. But listen, I want to say this again. This is really important. Some groups, actually the majority, host-ruled artifact use to make it smoother. So there is your majority customer showing you. And I wish a lot more TSR would have checked out the host ruling stuff on D&D. Because the stuff 3rd edition does and WotC does, it's a lot of the stuff that was host ruled already. Like, not exactly, not the feats, not some of that stuff, but giving players more survivability means, focusing more on miniature gameplay at the time, but needing to come up with miniatures there was a bit of that. There was some people wanted to do more miniature stuff because TSR actually didn't have a big history on miniature gameplay. Like I said, the people were so expensive that it was hard. So there was a bit of the designers wanting miniatures to be a thing. And it's not like Gary and them didn't want to use miniatures at all for the game. It's just, again, remember, TSR, it was unaffordable. So that's why it wasn't on demand that way or meant to be in the game in that way. But with WotC, they lean way more into the miniature stuff. But why are they doing this stuff? Because later 90s, all right, as WotC's getting ready to take over, more people are doing this stuff at home with the chips, with the stuff. More people are playing survivable games with more hit points. So what did WotC do? Okay, we'll do that. And the majority went, woo, we'll buy your thing because now we don't get a host rule. So it's not that I'd agree with the majority of that, like that stuff. Myself, I'm a grindier player, right? I prefer a different game than they do. But I do realize the majority of people in the D&D world, even back in the TSR day, didn't like the grind that I liked. I knew that from just going over to the games, checking out host rules. They'd be like, what did you change here? Oh, and the DMs would let you get away with shit. And you're like, I know we all brag about how strict old school was, but if you actually went around to a lot of games, you'd realize, hey, DM, how strict were you? He's still alive? What about the total party kill over here? What about this? It's funny when you hear new school people try to play some old school games, and they'll play a pretty diddly game because they'll think that's what all the old school guys were doing. Oh my God, not exactly. It's I get the game was made that way, and some of us, a minority of us, love the fucking hardcore shit. The vast majority host rolled most of that out. So you just walk around and be like, hey, AD&D 1E guy, you're supposed to be running a lethal game? Yeah. You're helping them avoid traps, dude. And you think that would just be one guy, but like next thing you know, you walk over to the next DM. Dude, I'm a second edition guy, but other AD&D guys would, what the fuck? What are you doing? Why aren't they dying so easy? Like, didn't he just lose all his hit points? You could patch him up? Oh, I had no idea, but no. So all the hardcore shit you hear about. See, it's one thing to read about the old school and assume they were all hardcore because some people assume it and say it out loud. But when you're a guy like me who was actually active at the time in the old school for real, you go around, most guys just did not play lethal games with old school D&D. They just didn't. And that includes AD&D 1E guys, even some second edition guys, sadly, not happy with that. But OD&D was just as guilty. They played easy games where it was like they weren't as hard to the players. You'd survive with your characters for some time. I remember getting on Open RPG, and one of the first groups I had, they died. They got to level 3, most of them. I think there was one person who wasn't level 3 or something like that. But they run into a normal group of hobgoblins, and it's just normal group of hobgoblins. They should be able to beat them. They have multiple fighters, ranger, fighter, the whole nine. It's a good group. I think it was like 8 people. It's only a small group of hobgoblins. But there is one difference. In the hobgoblin group, there was one archer. All he did was drop down to one knee, just about like this, and he stays back to fire arrows. It was a total party kill. The hobgoblins killed the entire level 3 group, and they were like, what? I can't believe that happened. Like, you're crude, man. My first con was HalCon. We have Halifax. I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada, so we have a popular one. It's built up. I talked about it the other night in the chat where they were talking about cons. Right now, it's on average has around 15,000 people that go to it, which I did not know. I guess it's considered pretty fucking big for a gaming con, like a tabletop role-playing game con. So they have about 15,000 people that go to it every year. And that grows. So that you go back 5 years, that wasn't the average number. It is now 5 years later, but the number seems to keep growing. And it's because I think it's one of the big cons in Canada. So a lot of people actually go to it. A lot of people. And it's not like there's competition. Unlike in the States, there's not a con just conveniently everywhere or well advertised everywhere. In Gamma World, back to the thing, technology isn't equipment, it's archaeology. And you don't master the past, you gamble with it. That captures the design perfectly, right? The big truth. The artifact system exists to support one thing, discovery tension. It's not meant to be efficient. It is meant to be dangerous. That's pure TSR design energy right there. Okay, so we're on to the mutation system. And note, Stephen Kennedy, you're much older than me. I was born in 1980. Just to let you know. Would have been fucking 2 years old when you went to your first con, old man. Poking. We're grounding this in the original TSR line, beginning with Gamma World, evolving through TSR editions. No WotC material here. But we're going to focus now on the mutation system. Core mutation categories, 1E Foundation. Gamma World divided mutations into 2 primary types. Mental mutations, telepathy, telekinesis, mind control, empathy, precognition. These were often extremely powerful. Physical mutations, extra limb, wings, radiation emission, heightened strength, chameleon skin, these alter your biological form. Defects, not all mutations were good. You could also roll reduced intelligence, fragile structure, light sensitivity, radiation vulnerability. Mutation was a gamble. So there's so much that can happen. This is all back at the time where James Ward really thought you roll and you take whatever the fuck is coming at, and it's meant to be this weird and reduced intelligence stuff like this. Now, some players, old school players, a minority of them, love playing more strict games that can have these challenges. So this is definitely part of that mindset of the old school, right? The random generation system. This is pure Ward philosophy. Character creation worked roughly like this. Determine character type. Pure strain human, mutated animal, mutated plant. Roll percentile dice. Consult mutation tables. Repeat for a number of mutations allowed. Apply defects. There was no point buy, no build planning. You discover what the wasteland made you. So you picked your human character, now you're all this. And you have no control over all that. Again, most people host rule this differently. Mutated humans versus pure strain humans. This is important. PSH, pure strain humans, no mutation. Better ability to operate ancient tech. Social advantage in some areas. Mutated humans, physical and mental powers. Yeah. Less reliable with ancient artifacts. Gamma World subtly flips fantasy norms. The normal human is automatically superior. Sometimes mutations are far more powerful. So the pure human, it has advantages socially. They're considered like to be here in a superior way. The mutants, right, are powerful in comparison. Mutated animals and plants. This is where Gamma World becomes uniquely weird. You could play a telepathic raccoon, acid-spitting badgers, intelligent cactuses. You want to play an intelligent cactus? Bet you do. Joking. Photosynthetic humanoid vine. Mutated animals gain intelligence. Mutated animals gain intelligence. Gain opposable thumbs, often. Retain animal instincts. Mutated plants, often stationary unless mutated otherwise. Frequently possesses mental powers, highly alien in tone. No other TSR line lean this far into biological absurdity. So just imagine trying to play like a intelligent cactus. Gamma World, baby. Gamma World. Power level swing. The mutation tables were wildly uneven. One character might roll flight, telekinesis, force field. Another might roll height and smell, light sensitivity, extra finger. This wasn't considered broken. It was considered interesting. Ward assumed the world would equalize power through danger. So the challenge is what you're running into. He thinks it's going to balance a lot of this out in the long run. Activation and limitations. Most mutants had limited uses per day, chance of failure, resistant rolls from targets. So they could only use it so many times. There was a chance of them failing. Targets could resist, right? Radiation interaction risks. So they could end up, radiation is in Gamma World, so you've got to watch what you're doing. This prevented total dominance by a single character, but not always. Some combinations were absurdly strong. You would almost consider game breaking if it wasn't for how crazy this game is meant to be. Radiation as catalyst. Radiation in the Gamma World is not just damage, it can trigger new mutations. I sometimes look at the video game Rust and think some of Rust is inspired by this. I'm not joking about that either. I actually think Rust is very inspired by Gamma World. Trigger new mutations, so it can trigger new mutations, remove mutations, remove them, cause defects, enhance powers temporarily. Radiation is evolutionary chaos fuel. So through evolution, like the radiation is going to make changes to you. That's exactly what it does. It's not just an environmental hazard, it's a design lever. Social consequences. Mutations wasn't purely mechanical. In many TSR modules, communities feared visible mutants. Pure strain humans sometimes held power. Some tribes worshipped certain mutation types. Mutations shaped social order, not just combat ability. So in some cases, being a mutant could be socially beneficial if you ran into the right group, right? Fallout 2 is definitely inspired. I wouldn't say, because I really do see this as not exactly Fallout, because Fallout does sort of aim at things that James Ward sort of leaned, but the inspiration for Fallout, definitely I say they took something from this. Evolution through TSR editions. Second ed 1983 streamlined mutation charts. As I said earlier, slightly more structure, still highly random. Again, 3E 1986, cleaner presentation, better organization, mutation chaos still intact. 4E 1992 TSR edition, more narrative framing. We're in a different era now. Some power standardization, but randomness still central. TSR never fully abandoned mutation swing. That was Gamma World's identity. It's hard to get rid of what it is. Oh, but awesome stuff. I have 1E printed. I don't have the book. It's just I have it printed. I have used it, but I just have an old print copy that I did years ago. I copied it from a friend. Why it worked. Mutation System did 3 powerful things. Instant character uniqueness, built-in plot hooks, constant mechanical surprise. It encouraged improvisation over optimization. Why it struggled for some groups. Balance complaints from the majority. Character envy. Yeah, you got the shit roll one, he got the great one. You want to have his experience, but you're having yours. Now I got the yellow warning for a connection issue, so I'm really going to reconsider using Restring going forward after tonight. I swear. I will check the stream afterwards, and I'm pretty unhappy. Print works great. Oh, it does. I'd still like to have an original copy like yourself, but so character envy, GM difficulty scaling encounters. So yeah, doing combat in that can be so dangerous that just as a game master, you could flub it all the time because it's hard to manage how the combat's going to work out. That's part of the craziness. Power creep via lucky rolls. Yeah, the rolls go a certain way, can change the entire thing. It demanded a table that could laugh at imbalance. So it needed people that wouldn't care about these things. Now, again, a minority of guys don't care, but this did hurt Gamma World 1E going forward, and they did address some of this going forward because of some of the unhappiness, right? So it demanded a table that could laugh at imbalance. Gamma World doesn't ask who you want to be. It asks what the apocalypse turned you into. And in Gamma World, imbalance isn't a flaw. It's an evolutionary story. It's evolutionary storytelling. That's what it is. The core truth. The mutation system is not meant to be fair. It's meant to create unpredictable narrative fuel. It's meant to create unpredictable narrative fuel. It's meant to create, if your table embraces that. Sorry, got lost on the text there for a second. So it's meant to create unpredictable narrative fuel. If your table embraces that, Gamma World sinks. Again, if you can laugh at the imbalance. If they want balanced grids and tight symmetry, it fights them. So if you're looking for D&D, it's not here. Like the D&D experience, the one you expect, it's just not exactly there, right? Okay, we're going to cover modules. Legion of Gold, G1 1980, one of the most iconic Gamma World adventures. Premise: a hidden city of androids ruled by a powerful artificial intelligence, AI, known as the Legion of Gold. Imagine, they're on AI many. This is old. This is 1980. Why it's important. Shows Gamma World's robot culture angle. Blends dungeon crawl with tech paranoia. Strong artifact interaction focus. And this is when you really get to play out if the artifact's going to blow up on you or not. Establishes that AI can be a major antagonist. So AI is alive. It can be a bad guy. Never even looked at it, to be honest, Stephen Kennedy, the 7th edition of Gamma World. I looked at the TSR stuff only. So strong artifact interaction focus establishes that AI could be a major bad person, major contributor to the thing. This module screams ancient tech dominance plus mutant vulnerability. If you want, Gamma World isn't just Mad Max with lasers. That's it. This is your example right here. That's what this module is. It isn't just Mad Max with lasers. Module, Famine in the Fargo, GW 1982. Premise, a settlement suffering food shortages tied to hidden technological interference. So it's the tech is fucking with them and causing them to not be able to grow food. Why it matters. Focuses on community level stakes. Shows how ancient tech affects everyday survival. Emphasizes investigation over pure combat. This one highlights Gamma World as a social ecosystem, not just ruin crawling. No, I would imagine it's not the same game. It's definitely WotC. I would imagine they probably answer to a lot of things the majority want from it, though. That's how they do it. Chickens! The Cleansing War of Garrick Blackhand, GW3 1982. Premise: a charismatic warlord uniting forces to wage war across the wasteland. Why it's important. Shows large-scale conflict, demonstrates faction politics, moves beyond isolated bunker exploration. This is Gamma World at its most campaign scale. It proves the setting supports more random mutation chaos. The Mind Masters module, GW4 1983. Premise: a powerful mentalist faction exerting psionic control over others. Why it matters. Leans hard into mental mutations. Highlights imbalance in power vitality. Just power out there. Sorry, having one of my issues on that word. I said it earlier, not saying it now. Emphasizes paranoia and hidden influence. If you want to show how mental mutations reshape society, this is the module. So if you want to see how psionics and these mutation powers can really shape what is happening around you, this is a module that really draws that deck. And each module seems to be something where they're aiming at trying to show you the game they want you to run, right? Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Alpha Factor, module GW5 1983. Premise: a dangerous radioactive zone filled with deadly relics. Why it's important. Radiation as an evolutionary catalyst. Strong artifact interaction. Survival tension front and center. This one showcases radiation not just as a hazard, but a transformation engine. So this is where they talk about radiation evolving things, changing things, mutating things. But it's not just a hazard, it's a transformation engine. It's used as a way to play with your creativity. Thematic breakdown, module and what it showcases. Legion of Gold is AI dominance and tech society. Famine in the Fargo is community survival and tech interference. Cleansing War, the Cleansing War is warlord politics and large-scale conflict. The Mind Master psionic mutation power structure Alpha Factor the Mind Masters is psionic mutation power structures. Alpha Factor is another module, radiation danger and artifact chaos. Each one of these expresses a different pillar of the Gamma world. The Gamma Wastelands. These modules prove, I hear you, Gamma world wasn't just random tables. It was supported campaign arcs. It had faction politics. It explored tech as civilization-altering force, so tech being very important. It embraced pulp tone over bleak realism. This is where it's being crazy instead of scary. You get, like, when they say it's not horror, Gamma World's not horror, it can be freaky, but it's meant to be crazy, not scary. Think tanks. If you want to understand Gamma World, don't start with host rules. Start with the Legion of Gold. And these modules prove Gamma World isn't just chaotic. It was a fully realized, ironic, wasteland ecosystem. And some of that stuff I just talked about is the backing for Fallout and stuff. Like, you, Steve McKenzie, said, yeah, it backed up. I think, as I said earlier, if you ever look at the background for the Rust PC game that I love, the radiation, the factors of Fallout seem to be exactly played into it. And I know most Rust people would never think of that because they're not old school guys in the tabletop role-playing game hobby. So they probably don't really relate Gamma World or what we do to the game they're playing. But I would say if you look at Rust, you'd be like, they've turned Gamma World into an MMO? Not exactly. There's no psionic powers, but you start getting the craziness. The mutations aren't there, but the inspiration for it is definitely from that. Okay. It was built on the D&D engine, but not D&D. Gamma World began with Gamma World. So this is why it can never be a pillar of D&D. It used hit points, armor class saving throws, but it was not medieval fantasy. TSR brand identity in the late 70s and 80s was fantasy first. D&D wasn't just a product, it was a company gravity. It was the company's gravity well, was the main aim. Gamma World was always orbiting that. So it stayed away from that. It did something different. Oh yeah, Stephen Kennedy, it doesn't have some of the fantasy, but it owed an interest if you looked into it, because you're playing in a radiated world, post-apocalyptic, and there's a ton of mystery. Like, you don't even know why you're there, but you keep waking up on the beach. And it's not just a game thing. It's actually meant to, it's almost like they did Rust, like the D&D thing, where things are happening, but there is a real explanation why you die and then wake up on the beach again. Right? Like, what the fuck am I doing here again? There's a reason. And it has to do with radiation, the background, just some cool stuff, right? So even though it was a company's gravity well, Gamma World was orbiting that. So it was unique compared to what TSR was usually doing. It lacked a flagship narrative. Look at TSR's big pillars. Dragonlance had novels. Forgotten Realms had Elminster and Drist. Even Ravenloft had Strahd. Gamma World had modules, setting flavor, mutant chaos, but it never had a singular iconic character or storyline that anchored it culturally. No mutant equivalent of Raceland. That matters. Tone was hard to lock down. Gamma World tone varies wildly. Is it? Oh, just one. Oh, yeah, it did. It did, Steve. You're completely right. Is it gonzo weird? Is it post-nuclear survival? Is it dark AI dystopia? Is it cartoon mutant adventure with your electrified badger? Different tables played it differently. That flexibility is mechanically interesting, but commercially, it's harder to brand. D&D sells heroic fantasy. Well, let's be honest, that's not what the early games were about, but this is why, see, when you say, This is true. I'm taking what they said in the past. So when I go into the facts here, this is where I step away from my opinion. And even if I don't agree with something, I'm saying what they said. So they said it's heroic fantasy. This was the sale pitch to what they were doing with D&D. Gamma World sells. Maybe you're a telepathic badger with a laser. That's harder to mass market, baby. Like, it sounds cool for a nerd, but it's harder to say, hey, you want to play a fucking badger with a laser gun? Probably not, no. Like, a lot of people would probably just look at that and go, I don't know if I want to spend money on that, right? High variance design is risky. Oh, high fantasy nowadays, for sure. High variance design is risky. Gamma World's mutation system creates imbalance, creates sudden death, creates absurd characters. Old school players embrace that. But mainstream growth requires stability. D&D evolved towards broader accessibility. Gamma World never softened its core way, that limited casual adoption. It's true. It's why it could never become the main product, because even though they are adjusting to try to please the majority, to keep true to the setting is still, I hate to say it, there's just part of the Gamma World that the majority are not into. At least the old school, right? Just the truth. Even though it's sold well, and you probably sold more than just because of the pulp stuff. I think that does have a separate crowd than just a minority, but still the vast, vast majority of people. Genre competition in the early 80s, or in the 80s and early 90s, post-apocalyptic gaming had competition. Car Wars, Steve Jackson games, Twilight 2000, later darker sci-fi RPGs. That's what they were. D&D owned fantasy space almost uncontested. Gamma World shares genre niche. See, I wish there was somebody around to see this, because this happens to me often. Just sort of funny it's happening on a live thing. Off topic, who are the bro OSR? Yeah, I get a lot of this. This is why I stopped making videos, Steven, about the bro OSR. The reason I stopped making videos about them is every time I would talk about them, people are like, who are these guys? Which meant it just means they're popular in their own bubble, but that popularity hasn't really spread to almost any other part of the hobby. So it's like, even in the old school, a lot of old school guys are just like, who are these guys? The bro OSR, I'll give you a quick rundown. I want to tell you who they are, but I don't want to promote these fucking idiots. They're morons. They claim to have brought something new. Some guys claim to have brought something new. They figured out something new or forgotten in the past. Complete lie. It's just a style of game, and everything they're talking about has been done in decades. It's just a bullshit lie, but they live on this stuff, and they make this claim, and they're all egotistic guys in their own circles, and they're like, we're the winners. We run the best game. They have this, they call it winning at D&D. I gotta say, it's one of the stupidest echo chambers I've ever seen, and it's the result of an echo chamber. You can tell these guys do not know that either people think they're idiots when they do know them outside of their circle, or most people don't know who they are. It's like, hey, bro, sir, I'm just a guy, and more people in the hobby know me than know your entire fucking group. And no, I'm not an ex getting a bunch of people that like cats to follow me either, so I'll say that and leave it at that. Okay, on to this. Genre competition, as I said, that was the Steve Jackson games, Car Wars, Twilight 2000, interesting stuff. It didn't produce a massive supplement ecosystem. D&D exploded with setting boxes. And maybe Stephen Kennedy, one day I'll go more into detail with Rosar privately with you. Splat books, it exploded with setting boxes, splat books, modules, accessories, novels, tie-in products. Gamma World had modules, but not a 200 book ecosystem. A massive novel line, deep merchandise deep merchandise push. It remained on the sideline. TSR prioritized D&D expansion, which makes sense. That's their flagship. TSR's 90s financial spiral. By early 90s, TSR was overextended. They were flooding the market with settings, splitting consumer attention, managing too many product lines. Gamma World 4E 1992 TSR edition appeared during this heavy expansion era. It's one of the many lines competing eternally. When TSR tightened focus, D&D survived, Gamma World didn't. So, oh yeah, I hear that. Car Wars was awesome. I like old school games, but for a moment, Gamma World had a chance to become the flagship game at TSR. I know this from talking to TSR guys myself. You can check it out. There is a point where D&D sales are down so much that if Gamma World picks up and becomes hot, they will lean into it. They are ready because they're almost completely done at this stage. If Gamma World out of nowhere 4th edition just fucking went up, TSR could still be in business today, but it wouldn't be D&D. It might be TSR with Gamma World. And guess what? If Gamma World was so much better on sales than D&D, they might have still sold the D&D title and game for the most part and kept Gamma World and worked on Gamma World. That might have actually happened. I've actually heard talks about that. So D&D survived, though. Gamma World did not blow up. It didn't happen. The identity paradox. Gamma World is distinct, creative, flexible, but that's the paradox. It doesn't have a singular iconic world map, a fixed pantheon, a singular cosmology, a default campaign structure. It's intentionally fragmented, great for creativity like mine, harder to brand for stability. The big truth. Well, I could see that. They launched Buck Rogers in hopes of better sales. No doubt, yeah. I love having you around for bringing up some of this stuff, man. Makes me feel good to hear that shit. No, but just like Buck Rogers. Okay. So, the big truth. Gamma World wasn't less creative. It was less commercially anchorable. D&D offers a repeatable, heroic fantasy formula. Now, note, a lot of us know the hero thing is played up in a way that it shouldn't be. Not for AD&D and original D&D, but again, I'm going back to what they said, not my opinion. Repeatable heroic fantasy is D&D. Gamma World offers evolutionary chaos. One scales easier, and that's D&D. Gamma World never failed. It just never replaced fantasy as TSR's foundation, though it had a chance. And D&D promises heroes. That's what sold D&D, but also killed TSR. See, the hero thing, you'll hear old school guys go, new school guys just want to play superheroes. No, they just want to play heroes, which is what old school D&D was supposed to be, but instead they gave you a regular guy with maybe a unique ability and sent you into a dungeon in mud, and 90% of DMs would end the game at level 8 before you'd ever encounter a dragon. So just that is some truth there. That's not, people in AD&D world do not deny me when I say they stop at level 8. They actually agree with this stuff. They know that. Oh yeah, I still love old school. Don't get it like old D&D. I don't mind AD&D 1. I don't have no issues with these personally because I know what they are. But I just say it's that heroic pitch, a repeatable heroic fantasy. Gamma World offers, as I said, evolutionary chaos. One scale is easier. D&D promises heroes. Gamma World promises mutation. Doesn't sell that well, does it? Right? You're going to want to buy the game where you play the hero. And new school guys, they don't see it as playing superheroes. They're like, we're playing the heroes that you old school guys were promised. Imagine, and are they completely wrong? I want guys, the old school, to think about that. Really think about that. You call them superheroes, and they're going, no. I talked to a lot of new school guys. Even 3rd edition, when it came out and they started playing that in the early 3rd edition, they said, man, we're finally playing the heroes that TSR promised us that we'd play. I mean, that floored me. That floored me. Because I was like, in my opinion, I'm like, I don't like WotC, but fuck is that guy. That's a major good point. Like, I might not even like the heroic game they're playing or whatever, but what he said to me is a guy who went from first edition to third edition. So this guy actually played a little bit of second edition, not much. Was mostly a 1E guy, AD&D. He went, and after 1 year of third edition, he came back and said this straight to me. He says, they're giving you the hero that TSR promised you and never delivered on. Wow. It's like, is he wrong? Is he actually wrong? Like, AD&D is a dungeon grind. You can ask any, hey, were you playing heroes? I mean, if people are being honest, every 1E guy is honest and tells me, no, you're just playing some guys with unique skills going into a dungeon, yeah. So you're not playing heroes. No, not really. I'm like, so here's a third edition guy going, we're finally playing the heroes TSR promised us and never delivered on. Oh, yeah. No, I'm not calling down Gamworld. Gamworld is so unique. I'm separating it, but it was comparing the old school D&D to the new school. I like the old school myself for what it really is. But now I can sympathize with people that TSR made a promise, in my opinion, about the hero gimmick, and it never played it through. And even to the point you can hear old school guys, they want to play superheroes. And when you stop and think about it, no, when you be honest, old school guy, they just want to play heroes. And that's what they're playing. And heroes are strong. Heroes do kick ass. Heroes are all this. So that's not a superhero. Superhero is Superman. They're not Superman. They kick ass like Naruto or something. Like they're in the hero vein. That is a strong hero, not a superhero. Superhero is powers way beyond that. Way beyond that shit. I mean, yeah, you can get some exceptions, but even technology advances most guys to a certain point or other abilities. In D&D world, we were playing not heroes, we were playing grindy guys that had a skill. We were workers. You're going to go work in the dungeon. It's your job. And you're greedy. You're there. Are you there to be a hero or to get rich? Yeah, you want to know why? It was very rare. No, I mean, how many times are you going to be a hero? And what is heroic? You're going to go save the people? Yeah, sometimes. I'm just saying, most of the time, being a hero and fighting the dragon, which is what you're meant to be, the ability to be the hero that fights the dragon under the sun, it's more optional with WotC than it is with TSR. It's more optional with second edition than it is with any of the other editions, right? We're just saying. Yeah. I'm not trying, I understand, Stephen. Me and you both love old school, so I'm one of these guys that can just be brutally honest with myself, no matter what I want to think, right? So, the contrast is clean and powerful. D&D promises heroes, which that pitch sells. Gamworld promises mutation, which doesn't sell that well. I mean, it does to a following, and so that's why it still had editions coming through. Final reality, Gamworld survived 14 years inside of TSR. That alone proves it mattered, but it was always the experimental sibling, not the empire building. Or not the empire builder. So let me say that again. Final reality, Gamworld survived 14 years inside of TSR. That alone proves it mattered. But it was always the experimental sibling of D&D, not the empire builder. It wasn't the flagship product. Oh, yeah, AD&D is fine. It's just, all I'm saying, Stephen, is if you sold D&D for what it really was, it would probably have some problems selling. So if you say the aim of the game is you're a hero and you show images of the knight fighting the dragon under the sun, that sells because that's what people want to do, right? And it's just D&D was a it's a bit of a front on that stuff. Let's be honest. At least they just didn't bother doing that with Gamma World. Gamma World was like pulp and crazy, and we'll sell it for what it is. Probably just less pressure to do that one. The same. So last part I'll cover here. How it influences the OSR. Random character generation as identity. It was the redheaded stepchild to D&D. Completely agree. Random character generation as identity. At the core, Gamma World is forced randomness. You don't build your character, you roll. Mutation tables, defects, variable powers. That philosophy resurfaces strongly in OSR design. 3d6 in order. 3d6 in order is definitely Gamma World. In that way, in the mindset of the dice decide or even old school decide. 3d6 in order. Random starting gear. Random spell acquisition. Random background tables. The idea discovery equals design. Modern optimization culture rejects that. OSR embraces it. Gamma World was doing it aggressively in 1978. True that. True that, boy. Swingy power levels. Gamma World characters could be wildly uneven. 1 PC, flight plus telekinesis plus force shield. So Gamma Worlds could be wildly uneven. This is 1 PC, flight plus telekinesis plus force field. Another could be enhanced smell and fragile skeleton. So just listen to this. Imagine you're a PC, you're playing a guy who has flight, telekinesis, and a force field. Oh, yeah. Flight, telekinesis, and force field. And the guy beside you has enhanced smell and a fragile skeleton. Who do you want to play? The guy who can fly with the telekinesis and force field? Or the guy who's like, oh man, enhanced smell and he's fragile? Oh, the randomness is just crazy. That imbalance wasn't bad design. It was narrative craziness. In OSR design, you see this in lethal, low-level fragility. Magic users dominating at high level. Uneven class power curves. The OSR accepts asymmetry. Gamma World normalizes it. So it's the OSR accepts that type of thing. Gamma World makes it their thing. Ruins as a mega dungeon. Gamma World's Wasteland is essentially an open world mega dungeon. Ancient bunkers, dungeon levels. Artifact bolts, treasure rooms. Robots, guardians. OSR design leans heavily into ruin exploration, environmental storytelling, non-balanced encounter tables. Gamma World framed the entire planet that way. That's pure sandbox energy. Artifact minigame player skill emphasizes Gamma World artifact use required experimentation, risk assessment, trial and error. It wasn't roll once and identify. It was engage with object carefully or suffer. That philosophy echoes in OSR principles. Player skill equals character skill. Rulings over rules. Risk-based exploration. Artifact charts created tension without hand-holding. High lethality as normal. Gamma World. Misused artifact, you die. Radiation exposure, you mutate or die. Robot security system, you die. OSR, save or die. Traps kill. Wandering monsters punish. Neither design style cushions players. They assume resilience at the table, not safety rails and mechanics. Awareness as a core tone. Gamma World embraced talking badgers, psychic plants, laser-wielding androids, mutant tribes. It didn't apologize for its absurdity. Modern OSR creators often lean into gonzo fantasy. Appendix N weirdness. Surreal dungeons. That tonal courage owes something to Gamma World. Example, it proved weird works. So when you see Gonzo and all that in the OSR stuff, you got to look back at Gamma World and say that's definitely part of the anchor for inspiration for that stuff. I would hope it is, because you don't find as much of it with D&D as you. Gamma World is just cuckoo. In a good way, but cuckoo. Modern D&D engine thinking. Gamma World demonstrates early that D&D can be genre flexible. The module mindset shows up in OSR design, where creators reskin BX into sci-fi, turn OD&D into post-apocalypse, mash fantasy with cosmic horror. Gamma World was proof of the concept. So what they're doing, Gamma World proved to them that they can do before they even did it. Why it's less discussed in the OSR or around OSR people. Despite influence, Gamma World isn't central in the OSR discourse because it isn't medieval fantasy. It didn't produce a massive adventure ecosystem. It doesn't tie directly into BX nostalgia, but in reality, it's very OSR. Like, you can see it even if you don't hear them talking about it all the time. The hard truth, Gamma World embodies parts of TSR design that modern systems often smooth out. That's true. Well, it's by design for Gamma World. It can be considered broken for other games. So other systems smooth it out with that design. So let me say that again. The hard truth, Gamma World embodies the parts of the TSR design that modern systems often smooth out. Unpredictability, lack of balance, obsession, high variance, mechanical risk. OSR circles re-embrace those traits even when they don't name Gamma World directly. That's what I'm saying. Gamma World can still be felt and seen in the OSR even if you don't hear them talking about it. That's so true. Some of them probably don't even know where some of the ideas that they're using came from, but they're there. They heard about them from someone. The Gamma World is the post-apocalyptic cousin of OD&D. Chaotic, lethal, and unapologetically weird. And if you like OSR unpredictability, you already like Gamma World, whether you realize it or not. I actually got through that whole thing. Yay. I'm sorry, and if look, I'll tell you guys right now. Sorry if I hit the mic there. The early part of the stream, I don't know how the connection was. If I really feel like that's choppy, I'll do a follow-up video at one point. Probably tomorrow, not tonight. I'm fucking tired tonight. But do a follow-up video and just cover some of the things that I felt weren't mentioned or were glitched out by the stream. And I'm really unhappy with Restream because, or maybe like YouTube, like you said, Stephen Kennedy, I'm not 100% sure. But all I know is disconnecting issues and the glitches. It's just not from my end. So it's like if I do everything on my end, it's just so unprofessional and stupid. It's like I'm already an amateur guy at home. At least let me have a fucking smooth stream, baby. Right? And I had that with StreamYard, so this is new to me. I was so spoiled with StreamYard. I would go on, do my StreamYard for like ever on my streams. Just no glitches, completely fine. Very happy. Restream. And then people almost, it's like they come at me as if I did something wrong. I'm like, it's like, oh, you got an excuse. I'm like, dude, I got no excuse. The first time I thought it was a storm that was happening here, and I think there was some relation to it, but I'm not sure. I just assumed that had a connection issue because I didn't know Restream had issues. It's only after I had a few problems that some people that use Restream finally said to me, like, yeah, man, we ran into this too, not just you. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's not just me, and I'm not going. I'm having one of these at the end of the facts. So that's Gamma World, man. The mouth was pasty from going through all of it, and I'm glad you were happy, Stephen Kennedy. I know a few others will be, but Gamma World is so important because it's. I look at the influence in the OSR. It doesn't get mentioned much. Thank you, Stephen. I'm glad you had a good time, man. I always enjoy tango with you here verbally because you know a lot of the stuff and you can bring up a lot of stuff. It's good. It's good to hear about that stuff because it's On here, I guess online, I don't have too many of these conversations, right? In person, a little different, but on here it's different. And I'm so thankful because I know that can just drive people away. I know it does it to me. Like, see, I stopped getting mad at the audience when I started realizing, just I stopped after so many years and just said, okay, how do I watch content? I go around, I'm watching a stream, I hear some background noise, click. I'm realizing, oh, that means that people are watching my stuff, background noise, click. Yeah, I start realizing how you think you're just a normal viewer. Just one day track how you view shit. It will blow your fucking. Some people are crazy. They don't even know it. I'm like, as far as you look crazy from my end as a content creator, but when you get back to the audience part, you're like, how am I clicking on stuff so sensitive? Yes, I am. Like, I'll click off. I don't like that. Click off. Oh, that bores me. Oh, fuck you. Click off. So I understand there's a lot of people that do that now. So as a YouTuber, this is why some YouTubers get really concerned about this stuff because they know it's like you might think it's not a big issue. Like, why is he bothered by that? It's because a lot of people click off over that. Right? So it's like, and once you know that as a content creator, it fucks with your head. Because I know a lot of people that just say you have your old lady is talking in the background or some TV is just slightly heard in the background. There's shitloads of people that will click off because it irritates them. They're not even mad at you. They don't even hate you. It just irritates them. I'm crazy too when it comes to viewing. It's not really so crazy. You just sort of look at how people are. But yeah, I'm a crazy guy as well. We're nerds. You got to sort of be crazy and out there because if not, we'd be more responsible and we wouldn't be playing these games. How true is that? I'm what, 45 going up 46 this year. Here I am still talking about tabletop role-playing games. So yeah, I'm not right in the head at all. I enjoy it, but I'm not right in the head at all. Fucking crazy, right? Mature person probably drop the fucking game and just focus on making money. Which is all we should be doing. That's why I tell people I don't really. It's when people tell you to come on here and have fun, I'm like, well, dude, and I can appreciate who's telling me. So I'll hear some old guy in the old school telling me, man, you should just do this for fun. And I'll ask him a question right away. Are you retired? He'll be like, yeah. All right. So you got money coming in? Yeah. Yeah, retired, yeah. Yeah, and you got some other people with you, yeah. And I get you're 58. It's not, I don't hate. I remember I game with old guys. It's not about hate. I was trying to get an old school guy just to understand why telling me to come here just for fun is ignorant. Right? I'm trying to explain to him why. I'm like, you're retired, dude. Like, you got a check coming in. Yeah. So, or you own your own business. Either way, you're in financial security, right? You already own the business. You already got this. You got the check coming in. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not there yet, dude. So that means my aim in life is to get there, to get to a point where I'm secure in life, have things paid. See, I got a number of income. So I got a number of things that bring me income on top of working. I hope by the time I'm 55, I'm going to retire because I want to create enough streams of money on smaller things that the amount of streaming money coming in just covers my shit, right? I'm doing pretty good now. I'm already starting on that and I get streams of money coming in. But it's creating multiple streams so by the time I'm 55, I retire. But yeah, guys were like, yeah, Steven, go just do this for fun. I'm like, dude, I got to make money. Like, or whatever I do has to be towards some form of success or trying to get somewhere. And it's like, if I had, it's almost every guy I know doing like fucking YouTube and that are in the same boat. So you'll hear old guys that I'm like, or you'll hear a really young guy who doesn't have bills, has parents paying their shit or whatever. And they'll be saying like, do it for fun. I'm like, so do what you're saying is even if I completely fail, I should put all this time in here where I should be used. See, it's trying to tell people, if this doesn't produce something good for you, sooner or later, you got to walk away from it. Like for me, making money. So it's like, if I were to give you something free where I wasn't trying to get ahead, in reality, give in reality, if I'm a responsible adult, I give you one video maybe once every 3 months. That would be the free time I have. Here I can do this and fail and it won't matter. So I can give you one video every 3 months and not a stream. That's where I can go with it. Here's your free. This is, I can do it for fun and not care if I fucking fail or flop. If I'm on here doing streams for a year, I can accept failure. I'm not against failure, but just tell people, if that doesn't sooner or later or something like that doesn't get me somewhere on something, selling a product, helping me my game when I update it in the summer, and that doesn't do that, the time commitment has to go away. It is, and the thing is, YouTube is a business for a lot of people. It's like, dude, if I'm making content on here, it's like WotC or TSR. So I'm not the audience. I'm not just part of the audience. So it's like, I'm here serving you. I'm working. I'm performing. So it's just, you got to remember that. Like, if, at least that's what I tell people. It's like, stop looking at me as just one of you who decides to get on YouTube. No, I'm like TSR or WotC. I'm here working to get ahead. And this is work. This is real work. Standing up here for a couple hours, in front of a camera, talking, going through a fucking thing where I had to research, do all that work, put that together. That's not casual. That's work. And that's valuable time that should get me something. And I can't do that for fun here. For me to do this stream, it took me a lot of work. I have to plan time. I have to make sure my schedule is through. I come here sick. I come here sick out of my mind, ready to keel over. And I do the job. And I do that to earn something. It isn't just for fun. I mean, but here's the thing. The old school is going to find out this year that a bunch of their guys are quitting at the end of the year. And I know this from talking to them behind the scenes. Like, a shitload of guys are probably done at the end of this year. Like, they're like, that's it, man. We tried. This is kind of nowhere. And it's just the audience doesn't really look at it that way. The audience doesn't get it. They think the guys are all okay failing. Like, you're here just for fun, right? It's like, no, almost every other YouTuber you're seeing is all here to grow. All here to do something. All of them. All the old school guys are out for the same thing I am at. Even if they tell you otherwise, they'll be looking to grow. And when they don't get it, they get really depressed. Well, I give up on making the game. I guess I'll just go to this. Like, you can hear them. It's people, like, I'll see YouTubers like, yeah, we're just here for fun. Then later you're like, yeah, sure. Hey, GM Cody, what's up, dude? You'll be here the 7th. You're getting to the end of the stream. It's 2 minutes and 20 minutes in. I just covered Gamma World, dude. I'm just casual talk at the end here. Steven, I am feeling better now for the most part. Like, I recovered from last night. But I showed up here, man, when I know everybody else doing streams, if they were as sick as I was, they wouldn't have even looked at this thing. I felt like death. Like, I really felt like my heart was pounding without telling you guys. I thought I was pale the entire night. I barely looked at myself because I was just like, man, I look fucked. I know I'm fucked in the head. I was really fucked up last night. I felt like it was a 24-hour stomach thing because it just went away. It was confusing. Next morning, I get up after being sick all night after the stream, and I was just like, okay, I felt a little weird. GM Cody, I hope you rewatch, and I do love Gamma World too, man. We went over the mutation system, the artifacts, like, in Gamma World, they don't want to smooth, even though most people host ruled it to make it smoother. If you go back to like 1E, you definitely get James M. Ward's real take on it, which is he wants you to not roll a dice to figure out what the artifact is. He wants you to pick up that, what's that, a cylinder or something like that. And you're like, what it really is, a laser gun, but you won't know. Say word, it will be described to you differently because you won't know what it is. You pick it up and you're like, what's this? Boom! And you blow up and die. And it's so sensitive to killing you that way. Like, life is on that end. Yeah, see, last night, or no, not last night, but the night before, sorry. I said last night. I had a stomach thing hit me where I got to tell you, man, I was pain. So my whole body hurt. I puked 5 times pretty rapidly to the point before the stream started. So I'm 5 minutes before I press start on the stream, I'm in there, but I had nothing left. I was gagging. Like, Everything came out of me the first 4 times. So it was dry heaves. I dry heaved and sweated my ass off, got up and washed my face, dried off, went in and said, I think I'm going to fall over, but instead I'll press the go live button. And that's honestly what I did. If not, I wouldn't have started the stream. I prefer 1E2. It's the artifact blowing up because it's so sensitive to killing. But yeah, I mean, it's later on you see all the host rulings. I think it's TSR did a really good job actually trying to go after the majority with that one. Good. Mutations were crazy. I remember that. I remember rolling up a shit character, and the other guy rolls up a whatever superhero type. He can do the flight. He can do the telekinesis. He can do the force field. And I gave an example tonight, but it's an example I actually went through. I rolled up a character with enhanced smell and a fragile skeleton. The other guy rolled up a guy. Okay. I don't know if I'm back. We just am I still here? People seeing me? I'm not even sure. I'm gonna refresh this entire thing. I swear I'm going to lecture. I'm honestly going to lecture these guys. I'm really unhappy. Great stuff. Yeah, the mutation thing was playing with a guy with enhanced smell, and he had a fragile skeleton. The other guy had a force field, telekinesis, and he could fly. It's one of my first experiences with Gamma World. It's like, what's going on here, dude? Yeah, sadly. They had a few glitches at the start. I'm really mad at Restream because it's not on my end, but like Stephen Kennedy said here, it could be YouTube also causing some issues. No. What I'm going to do there, GM Cody, is probably send you some of the questions I want to ask you the night before, because I'm so new to you that I just want to make sure you know I'm going to bring this stuff up. I'm watching your videos, and I'm going through some stuff you say, and I'm wondering, like, oh, did you do this later, or is this something you improved on, or because I noticed some older videos, and I want to ask you about some of this stuff, but I don't want to do it in an accidental gotcha way. So I'll make sure I send you some questions, and we don't have to get through them all. No, I don't care if we get through a few, but I'll send you at least a few. I won't send you them all. Well, I'll save a few that I know are pretty good already that I'm not concerned about, but there'll be a few I just send just to verify with you. Will you be ready to talk about this? And if you are, cool, let's talk about it. if you're still in the middle of this, okay, I'll leave that alone. I didn't have to do that with Max because I've known Max for a lot of years, so I was able to sort of prep for that interview mentally. So I knew the questions were safe because I heard him answer these questions many, many times, and I just knew I wasn't going to ask him anything that was going to be gotcha. I just knew that right away. With you, GM Cody, I've seen you a bit on the bear thing, and I've seen some of your recent play on the gaming with ADHD. I think it's that guy's the alternative game. The alternative game. You guys game very different than me. Like very different. Very, very. You perform. I'm in the imagination. It's part of the performance, but it's a bit different. Oh, cool. I just don't want to ask anything that would be a little weird. But yeah, I figure you would be. You seem like a confident guy that would just, even if I threw things at you, you'd be able to wing it. But I'm still getting to know you. But you come across that way to me. So that's good. Hyperborea for the win. Yeah, I game a little bit different than you guys because I notice there's a lot of performance where I don't bother doing voices or anything. I'm more in the imagination, and then I just depend on your imagination to determine. As long as I use tone and words right, it works. So it works. I'm more in the imagination, try to get inside of your head while we play type of DM. I'll be there, and that's that. Just a bit different. Well, more than a bit different, right? But I watch guys. I don't know if they're just performing for the camera. Sometimes I noticed that with a few groups. There was a Matt Fistful of Dice. I remember early on, old channel, but he used to do a lot of live plays, and you'd watch his live plays, and man, it was a bit of drama class. And I'm like, okay, dude, I wasn't, I knew people would attempt to do performances, but most of the gaming I did in person and even on, say, online early was just still deep in the imagination. It's not meant for the onlooker, right? Not meant for the people that are just watching. So sometimes I watch live plays and I wonder if the guys are just performing a bit for the audience, but I don't know. I don't want to judge. It's just different. Oh no, I don't think it was a bad thing at all. I think you guys all did pretty fine. It was a fidgety system. I understood the guy was learning and you guys were all sort of trying to figure it out. I sympathize with the hiccups, so I put them aside. I never judged you based on seeing how that went down. But I was just like, I realized after watching a few different live plays, especially with Bear, oh, he's different. It's not how I do it. But I get it. He likes to do the voices. I appreciate guys like that. I've never had an issue with them. I find a lot less of that in life. Like a lot less groups do that. At least when I was younger in the old school, like the actual old school, it was more like in the imagination. I mean, the idea of guys doing voices just never existed for years. That's a complete drama class add-on. Most guys, and there were some guys like in the 70s and that would do it. They'd even tell you most tables that just people just talked as if they were using words their character would use and maybe tone. Like, so if I'm doing the female NPC that you're meeting, I can just soften my tone, say words that I think that woman would say. And if I asked the player afterwards, did you feel like that was you were talking to me and a guy, or did you actually feel like you were talking to a woman? Felt like I was talking to a woman. Like they just don't even know it's an issue. If you're meeting players that just have not thought about voices. Afterwards, you just ask them, was this an issue? No. Did it take you out of anything? No. So if I did the voice, would it have really mattered? No. Cool. Yeah. So that's what you find out the truth about most players. They don't give a fuck. Unless you put it in their heads that voice, like you tell them the voice thing is important, they might think of it. But before they've heard that argument, put them in a game where a guy's just doing what I'm doing. No player will even think it's an issue. And they'll completely take the NPC in wholeheartedly, like as woman, as this, and their imagination will run that just fine. So what you find out is voices in reality don't really enhance the experience. They're fun. They show some skill. But I noticed after a couple of sessions, guys do voices. It's like, yeah, there's the guy that does the Irish voice here. Is his voice doing anything more for you? No. And they can sit there beside a guy who's doing voices and the other woman player's just doing her normal voice but talking as her character. And suddenly you start realizing players are taking her in just as well in the imagination as they're the guy doing the special voice. So what you find out is in reality, until you put it the seed in people's heads that voices are important, that's just not true. They just don't care. So I notice there's a lot of voice stuff where guys will say in some circles, doing voices is so important. I'm like, no, it's not. Not reality. Not when you meet. Before players think about it, they wouldn't even care. And they'll have just as much fun at your game as if you're doing the voice or not doing the voice. So just that's the reality. And it's when you get out there, you start realizing that. And I realize a lot of guys today think that doing voices is a major skill thing. And I'm like, well, it is, if you're doing some acting. Oh, no. I don't, like I said, I play with guys that did voices. I don't assume all guys are doing voices as if that's important to them. But I know a few guys around Bear Circle that do think that doing voicing it's almost like a skill that improves you over the guy that doesn't. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. Like, you're not a better DM than me because I don't do voices and you do. That's just a fact. Like, the voice thing is just, it's not necessary. It's cool, and I appreciate it. And I have no problem with people doing voices, and I think it can be fun, especially if you're like GM Cody, you do it in person, and that can be a little entertaining for people for a little bit. It could even be entertaining for the people watching the session. I totally get it online. Totally get it. It's just I do hear some of the guys in that circle will say, yeah, so, the good GMs can do voices. I'm like, no. No. But so it's a natural thing for me. It helps me get into character, but it doesn't always do it. And it's just, I totally get that. I totally get that. Sometimes just getting into character is, here's what I tell players if you want to get into character. Here's the basic thing you have to understand for character development really quickly. Basic shit. Every bit of interaction at the start is super important. I tell players, care about it. I'm like, why? I'm like, every question is going to help develop your character. Because one answer will tell you a lot of things about one character. Just like imagine you're being a chef, right? You're a cook, you learn to cook. You learn one thing for a meal you're doing. That thing is probably going to be something similar you're doing in other meals. So in a way, you learned that one thing for that thing, but in reality, you're going to know now that technique for a lot of other things. So one answer, like answering a question about your character, well, if he thinks this, then you can assume a shitload of things that guy thinks after that. And if you as a player want to play to your own assumptions of your character after you come up with the answer, it starts being easier to develop who they are. And if you focus on that for like 2 or 3 sessions, you'll develop a character really quickly, like to the point where you can at least then slow it down and just get into more casual fun. You can do that, or you can be like another player who doesn't do that, and it takes them 1 year or 2 years and a fucking character to develop them. Some players are like that. Some players play themselves, as we know. Voices can do it for you, can lean you there, but I really find just focusing on the questions and what you say with the character, not trying to entertain, but just serious. That answer will tell you a shitload of things about that guy. So every question becomes deadly important early on. And if you focus on that, by session 2 or 3, you'll have a better idea of who your character really is. And that technique, I told people to focus on that. It works every time. Every player is just taking me serious on it. They're like, yeah. It's because they'll have their previous experience and they'll be like, yeah, it took me a few months to really know who that guy was, or it took me a while to really get to that stage with him. But yeah, I took your thing, and man, in like 3 sessions, I'm in the same boat I was in, but it took me months with the other guy. It's like, yeah, because it's just a trick I learned. It's something I was taught as a player. Like, Steven, do you want to develop a character? Because I came into late 90s, so I'm lucky I wasn't in the old school era where this thing didn't matter. I came in 2nd edition mostly, so stuff like character development mattered when I came into it. And it was like, right away I was given tricks. You could sit here and just sort of, flaunt. You can fly around, be random, but it will take you a bit of time usually to develop a character, really develop a character. But if you just focus on that first couple of sessions, or maybe even a good focus on that first session, every bit of dialogue is important. Every question is important. If you care enough to do that, boom. Now, if you're playing like one-shots, I guess it doesn't matter. If you're playing a short campaign like the new school guys, I guess it doesn't matter. But I'm old school, so when I run a campaign, it's still like 60 to 100 sessions. So it will matter with me if you're playing my game. Right? I'm still old school in that way. But yeah. So let's talk about the next shows coming up. And sorry, GM Cody, you weren't here for this one, but we got a few others coming up that I think you'll like. And you're coming up for an interview soon. But after this is I'm still doing Star Frontier, Vampire the Masquerade, and Palladium's Heroes Unlimited. I love Heroes Unlimited. I did so much mutant stuff with Heroes Unlimited. It's silly. I like the superhero stuff, but you could use it for like 50 million things. Heroes Unlimited was one of the better Palladium games that I personally liked. I liked the Robotech stuff, but I didn't like the gameplay as much as I just liked the collection of information. I was like, if anybody ever makes a Robotech game, they're going to have to call the Palladium guys and just go, hey guys, can we use this? Because, you really don't got another option. They did such good work on it. You're just like, how could you ever make another Robotech game without just taking their work, right? You can't just do it. I wasn't big on the game. For whatever reason, the Heroes Unlimited, That worked for me. That worked for me. I did a lot of gaming with that. Had a lot of fun. Vampire the Masquerade, I did a bit of gaming with it. It wasn't my big thing, but I do appreciate the vampire and werewolf lore, and I do understand why that is such a good history and backstory to make a game. Though, I gotta be honest with you, GM Cody and others, and Steve and Kennedy, I did not like the people that game attracted. So I played for a bit, and had some other groups ask me if I played. I'd be like, no, I'll skip. I'll go DM. I was telling Steven here, I played for about 10 years, and then I played off and on afterwards, but like not in any serious game. After 10 years of playing tabletop role-playing games, I retired, and people are like, oh, you're forever DM? I'm like, not exactly, because when you talk about forever DMs, it's a lot of DMs that have no choice. Like, we just didn't have a game to play. I had a DM, or I wouldn't be able to play, or have an experience. Me, I've never lacked being offered a game to play. So I had GMs scouting me for years. I have GMs still to this day ask me to play in their games all the time. And I don't. I'm just like, because they know I'm serious and I give a fuck, and I'll try, and I'll put my best foot forward, and they know I'm a clever guy. So, and they know, here's what guys liked me when I was young. You put me in a shit GM's game, and I'll make him look like a champion. They were like, why? Cool, because I'm an experienced game master, and I wouldn't make the guy look bad. I would know where he's flawed. I'd be like, I tell him, like, my player wants to do this, but then I'd add the information that I know he needs to hear, because I realize he needs to hear it. Yeah, my guy's doing this. I'm intending to do this to you. Because I start realizing some of the guys I played for sucked. But they love me, because if I sat in a session, all the players would be like, man, that guy was great. And then they played with the same guy without me. And they'd be like, what the fuck happened to this guy? And that I had guys come to me all the time, like, you make me look really good, Steve. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So I was always out to make the experience fun. So I just never fucked with people. I never had the ego, like, I got to make you look bad. I just never had that in my head. It was like, okay, this guy is having shit in the bit a bit. Maybe I'll help him here. Or, hey, dude, or I'll lean over. We go on a break. I wouldn't give advice like as if I was GM to GM. I just start looking, my character's thinking of doing this. Maybe we could do this with the group and be cool, right? And give him the hint that he needs to hear. And then just get back to the table, okay. And then during live gameplay, if I notice he's having trouble with another player, I'd have my character step in and go, maybe I'd do over to the character for, maybe me and this guy could do this and sort this thing out. And you're like, oh, yeah, I never thought of that. Okay. So the other player doesn't notice any shit. Cool. We move on. Nothing personal. I just met some guys that weren't that good. And they're very honest about it to this day. So it's not like they'd hate me saying this about them. And I'm not trying to be crude. It's just some of them sucked, right? But I'm like that. I just don't look to socially destroy people in that way. Unless you piss me off enough like Jeff Rowe Johnson. Yeah. I might invite you on for a debate. But beyond that, I just don't. I socially don't bring people down. It's stupid. It doesn't do anything for me. Whenever I socially make someone look bad, I feel bad afterwards. Like the bitch voice thing I did for a while on a certain YouTuber. I kept repeating over and over again that he had a bitch voice. And I knew that would manipulate, and I knew people would start bringing it up to him. And it got to the point his own audience starts like, hey, man, you don't got a bitch voice. Like they're patting him on the thing to make him feel gooder. And I'm like, afterwards, I was like, I feel bad. Yet this guy has fucking crucified me. And I still feel bad. I don't know if I had a connection problem there. But yeah, the guy I'm talking about crucified me on his streams. Fucking used me as content forever. I still felt bad after doing a few videos. And it started working. So I stopped. I went, bitch voice, bitch voice, bitch voice. And I went, oh, okay, it's working. Stop. Now I feel bad. You'd be like, well, didn't you fuck you over? Why would you feel bad? Just, I'm not out to get people in life. Like, this guy's a YouTuber he has a family trying to make money or whatever. I don't want to fuck with that. So I just stopped it right away. I don't care how much these guys hate me. It's just, I know he has a family and he has fucking YouTube and I know he's trying to get somewhere with it. So I'm just not out to fuck with people's life. It's like I can be a nerd and disagree with you and be mad at you, but it's like if it gets to the point where it's like, well, I won't even do game reviews. And people are like, why? Well, because I'm an honest guy. And so if you give me a game I don't like, I'll say it, but what if my opinion hurt the sales of that game? That guy's trying to get somewhere in life. Right? I'm not out to fuck anyone over. I mean, I can talk about WotC. They're a big business with Hasbro behind them. They can handle it. But local YouTuber guy, the guy has fucking kids. I'm not out to fuck with it. This is a game. It's a game made for kids. I mean, I know us adults play it, and it is made, for adults to play to a point. It's just a fucking game. I can't be out there destroying people over a game. I think it's the most childish, pathetic thing I've ever encountered in my life. It's like the guys that come after me over the game stuff. I'm just like, dude, I could understand if I kicked your dog or slapped your mother or something. I could understand all the crucifying of me all over the place, or people talking about me like I'm trash all the time. Like I just didn't get it. And it's a lot of manipulation because I'm really not some incompetent guy. So when people talk about me this way, and it's not just one stream, but it's the next stream, it's the next stream. It's like, dude, guys, after like doing this, like fucking between like probably 20 of you, probably like 100 times in like 2 months, do you not start realizing you have influence because you're YouTubers and the guys are all being influenced by what you're saying, repeat it like a seed over and over again in their heads. And then I have to hear it from the guys who show up to my channel. Hey, you're an idiot. I was like, no. And then some guys that stay around, they're like, after a while, they're like, and Steven, you're nothing like what they said you were. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's always the same. It's every person who finally gets to know me, like stays around, they realize all these YouTubers in the tabletop role-playing game hobby have completely lied. They're just like they even go through the content to see if it backs it up. And like, it doesn't at all, dude. Like, you're not crazy. You're not nothing. Like, everything they say about you, nothing pans out with evidence. I'm like, yeah, I know. But if you have to see it in your head before you get here, and you don't like an opinion I have, it's easy to throw me under the bus and just to consider what I have to say. So a lot of guys do that. A lot of nerds will just get mad at me because they disagree. And then they take advantage. They hear the things said about me and they're like, yeah, you're an idiot too. They really don't think it. They're just mad at me with the gaming opinion. It's like, okay, fair enough. Get on the bandwagon. I'll let you. But yeah, I noticed some guys aren't on the bandwagon. So I open the door. Even to some guys I think we're on the bandwagon. Right? Trying to be open-minded. Like, I got Max on. Me and Max had some issues over the years. But I got Max on. I had no issues with you, so I'm happy you said yes. Another guy I'd like to get on, I think you'd probably know him as a Dungeon Minister. Because me and him get along really, really great. So I'd like to talk to him. But everybody else is pissy with me, like a Dungeon Delver I like for years. But I studied the market of TSR, and I know when they lost their customer base. And it was before second edition. Even the TSR, because I've been doing the fact-based stuff, even all the fucking TSR staff admit this. No one denies that they lost their fucking customer base, over 90% of them, before second edition was even on the market. Second edition was a way to draw them back, not something that put the company out of business. And actual people that worked at TSR say that. Dungeon Delver, I said AD&D 1 caved in TSR, and I said it's not because it wasn't successful at sales. It was because it made a promise to players. It made a promise about being heroes out under the sun as a knight fighting the dragon. And they bought a game, and they were a regular guy with some unique stuff that went into the dungeon and worked in the mud all the time. And very few gaming elements were hero stuff. And most AD&D 1 DMs never went past level 8. That's the majority. Over 90% of AD&D 1 DMs, level 8 to 10 is it. That's it. So your chances of even encountering some of the stuff completely did in the water. And it turned off a shitload of people that purchased the game, because most of the people that purchased the game are not war gamers. They purchased it going hero. I said this at a later part of the stream, GM Cody. I don't know if you heard me say this, but it did floor me. It was a third edition guy who went from AD&D 1 and played third edition for a year when third edition came out. He came back to me and he said this, and I still don't like WotC gaming, but he said this and it floored me. He said, so the old guys are calling what we're doing here superhero stuff, right? I'm like, yeah, that's what they're calling it. He's like, it's not superheroes. We're playing the heroes that TSR promised us but never delivered on. And I thought about it. He's like, yeah, we're playing the heroes, not superheroes, because heroes kick ass. We're playing the heroes that TSR promised us but never delivered on. And that floored me. To this day, I think the guy had a point. I think it was actually so spot on that even though I don't like WotC gaming, I sort of sympathize with the view. It's like, yeah, we finally played the heroes that TSR promised us, but we played it with a WotC game. And he said how ironic that the old school guys, instead of accepting the truth of this, is calling it superheroes because they can't accept the truth that we're finally playing heroes when they're just playing guys going through a dungeon. Oh, it floored me. I still, again, between me and you, Jim Cody, I still don't like 3rd edition, 4th edition, or 5e, but I'll do 5e a bit here because I got the 2024 book. But I still love 2nd edition. I like AD&D 1. I like original D&D. I love Gamma World old school. I love Palladium games. I love all the old school shit. But the guy, he made such a strong point, which is like, yeah, so maybe a bunch of old school guys are really idiots on this topic, and I could understand why they're getting rejected, because it's like, but Dungeon Delver got mad at me for this, because I said the AD&D 1 is what put TSR out of business. Now, I'm not the only one who says that. So did people that worked there said it. Like, it caves in the company for money. Because it brings them in a shitload of money, but it builds up a company big. And so you get big. You hire more staff based on the money you make. The problem is, now you got to keep making that money to hold up the bigger company. And because of the failures of AD&D 1 and most of the people not being wargamers, I don't know how many guys I talked to that, I'll say this, it's sort of good that AD&D 1 failed in that way. Because I don't think we have Palladium games or Vampire, the Masquerade, in the same way. Almost every Vampire person and Palladium person I met were all people that left because of AD&D 1. And so, remember, we're a lot younger. We're not purchasing all games. So when you went and dedicated yourself to a game, that's it. Your purchasing power over here is gone. So it was a permanent customer. Like TSR lost what you call permanent customers. Customers that go, if we go to Palladium, all we're buying is Palladium. Like, we're no longer buying this. And that killed the company, because that was the majority of customers were permanent customers. So if they leave, that's secure cash flow going away. What was left was a minority of people that stay with D&D, and they did focus on serving that minority. And as I've criticized in the past, it's one of the most unloyal customer bases I've ever seen in my life. And then WotC went on, and if you paid attention, oh yeah, cool, take care, dude. But like I said, Mr. Steven knows this. If you pay attention and you go on to WotC, they do nothing more than what TSR was planning to do. They did all the same routines. Yeah, but they sold, and they made their game for the majority and a loyal customer base that kept them afloat. That's what killed TSR. There you go. I won't hammer that on poor G and Cody come the 7th, but it will be a good talk. Okay, there, almost 3 hours. All right. I love you all. I can't do more than that. 3 hours free talk. Gamma World, kick that.